Wow. What is normal wild animal behavior? And what do I do if I see a raccoon or a fox out during the day?
Animals that are out at night can also be out during the day. For example, foxes may be out playing or looking for food. Raccoons might be out looking for food or even moving from one home to another. So if you see them out, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're sick. However, if you do see an animal that looks sick, dying, or even dead, contact the city of College Park Animal Control Services or contact the Prince George's County Health Department and keep children and pets away from these animals. If you think that an animal has bitten you, go to the emergency department and call the health department. If you think an animal has bitten your pet or scratched your pet, then contact your veterinarian right away.
So, what can I do and to protect myself, my family, and my pets?
It's a good question. So first, teach your children not to approach or touch wildlife. Make sure your animals are vaccinated, they're up to date. Don't leave them unattended or let them roam free. If you see a stray animal, make sure you stay clear of it. We have a lot of stray cats in our communities. If you see a lot of stray cats in your neighborhood and in College Park, contact animal control. There's also a community cat program you can contact as well. Also, animal proof your house. Cap your chimneys. Make sure you have screens on your windows. If you have a hole on outside that's more than a quarter inch, fill it, and also secure your trash bins because that's a big area for animals to get into. And then again, report any bites to the health department. Go to the emergency room if you do get scratched or bitten, and contact your veterinarian if it happens with your animals.
Well, thank you. Those are all great tips. And I think from what I got from it, pet vaccinations are a big part of it. So thank you. What steps are the city, the county, and the state taking to keep our residents safe?
Well, the city of College Park, the Prince George County Health Department, and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources are all working together to monitor and track what's going on in the area. And we will continue to work together to track this and also take next steps as appropriate based on the level of risk so that we can ensure that all Prince Georges are their healthiest at every age and every stage, and everybody is safe from rabies.
Well, thank you again so much, Dr. Levy. I really appreciate all that amazing information that you gave. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, College Park. It is Tuesday, July 16, 7:30 p.m. I am calling to the order of the regular meeting of the College Park City Council, College Park, Maryland. We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silent meditation, followed by Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, this will be led by Councilmember Adams. Colleagues, do you want to add anything to meditation? Please go ahead.
Hi, I'd just like to keep everyone in your thoughts and your prayers. All those who experience mental health that just feels so overwhelming to them, I ask that you keep everyone in your thoughts and your prayers and reach out to your neighbors, because you never know who is struggling with anything and whether or not they decide to make that ultimate choice.
Thank you. We'll do that. Councilmember Adams.
Yes, I just wanted to keep our nation in our thoughts and prayers. Political violence has no part in our country, and we just need to recognize the impacts that this has had on all of us, and just make sure that we maintain proper and heartful community throughout our country.
We do. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you can keep the individuals down in the southern belt of Texas, Louisiana, those individuals, there's been heavy rains and flooding, and I know personally I have family down there, and some of them just made it out in the nick of time. And so we take for granted here the issues of storm water and flooding, but down there it's truly real when everything they have is now gone. So if we can keep them in our thoughts, everyone down in the southern belt. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Seeing none, please join me in a moment of silent meditation. Councilmember Adams.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're starting the roll call, starting with Councilmember Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Hill,
Present.
Dr. Esters,
Here.
Councilmember Whitney,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Here.
Councilmember Mackey, Councilmember Adams,
Here.
and Councilmember Rigg.
Here.
I do the announcement in the same order with Councilmember Hernandez.
Yeah, first off, I wanted to thank the council for a robust discussion last week, selecting National Night Out to be had at Duval Field. I want to welcome you over to the northern part of College Park on the first Tuesday of August 6th, for our National Night Out. Details to come, but I just wanted to start sharing the good news. This week we have a Hollywood Neighborhood Park. Please join us there for game night. Details can be found on the College Park social media. I wanted to share an invitation to apply to Monarch Pre-Kindergarten School in North College Park. The details can be found at Monarch Preschool website, but you can also call. We'll be sharing it on our socials, or on my social. But really, the applications for eligibility is your child should be between 3 and 5 years old, or a non-native English speaker, or have an active EIP, or meet the income requirements. Please reach out to learn more.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you. I pass.
Dr. Esters?
I'd just like to encourage residents to come out to the farmers market on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. In the Hollywood Shopping Center. It has been a wonderful market. I have gone almost every week and probably spent too much money. So please join me in spending money and taking part in this community event. Thank you.
Thanks for doing it. Councilmember Whitney.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that Division 1 of the Prince George's County Police Department is hosting a movie night this Friday night, 6:30 p.m. Enjoying outdoor movies, snack and beverages will be provided, and that's at 5000 Rhode Island Avenue in Hyattsville, 20781.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to say thank you to the West College Park Neighborhood Watch for a wonderful ice cream social that they had on Sunday. Even though it was hot, we still had a very good time. There was a lot of new families who came out with their children. It was very exciting to see the fellowship. And we have two of our leaders here tonight, Ms. Carol Gray and Ms. Bonner McCollum. And we want to say thank you very much for always making sure that we come together as a community. Appreciate you very much. Also wanted just to announce that Prince George's County Public Schools will be hosting an in-person recruitment and hiring event at the Bonnie Johns Administrative Building on Wednesday, July 24th from 10 to 2 p.m. So if anybody's interested in a position with the Prince George's County Public Schools, please attend. They will have other recruitment events throughout the month of August. And last but not least, for those young adults who are trying to pay off their student loan debt, there is a Maryland Student Loan Debt Relief Tax Credit that you can apply for that began July the 1st, and it will actually end on September the 15th. The website that you can go to get more information is H as in Harry, E as in Eagle, C as in Catherine, .maryland.gov. Again, M as in Mary, H as in Harry, E as in Eagle, C.maryland.gov. There's more information for you to peruse to make a decision to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Mackey.
Thank you. I want to thank the senior for giving me a T-shirt and counting me as a senior citizen, which I am, and thank them for being here. I also want to remind all of our elders above 65 that can to apply for the tax credit. You have time, but don't leave it till the last minute. And finally, I would like to encourage residents to consider taking a Good Neighbor Day project and filling out the form and leading it. So there's a lot of opportunities to lead Good Neighbor Day projects. And if you'd like to work with me on a project or one of our other council members, you can contact them. I'm sure that they would love to have people work with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Councilmember Adams.
Yes, I wanted to thank city staff, particularly code enforcement, for some efforts within District 3 in particular. We've had some graffiti that's had to be removed. We've had some fallen limbs that needed to be taken care of. We've also had some parking issues, and I really strongly support the work that the city staff has done to address those in a great fashion and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Councilmember Rigg.
Pass, thank you.
Let's go to the student liaison, Mr. Fahmy first. Sorry, actually, let's go to Erika Ott first.
Pass, thank you.
And then Mr. Fahmy.
Pass, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to our city manager's report, Mr. Young.
Good morning. Good evening.
It's still pretty early for
Let's
you.
hope that's not the case, right? Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents of College Park. Just one announcement this evening. The City of College Park's needs-based student housing subsidy pilot program is now accepting applications as of today. These are one-time grants of $1,250 for housing assistance to 60 eligible undergraduates and 60 eligible graduate students. To qualify, students must live within the boundaries of the City of College Park and be enrolled full-time at an accredited post-secondary institution in the DC metropolitan area, such as UMD, Bowie State, Howard University, Prince George's Community College, as well as others. You have to also be eligible for Pell Grants or have an income below 60% of the HUD 2024 adjusted home income limits, which is, I believe, about $64,000. So as long as it's below about $64,000, you can still be eligible. All applications are due by September 15th, 2024. You have any questions, you can email them to the Finance Department at collegeparkmd.gov, Finance Department at collegeparkmd.gov. That's all.
Thank you. Is there any question for Mr. Young? I have a question about the senior tax credit that Councilmember Mackey was asking about. So many of our seniors don't have good access to the computers, and they've been asking how they can be helped. Can staff help them in any way?
Yeah, all they have to do is either contact our finance department. We've been able to get out and see them. We've also been reaching out through our family, youth, and senior services programs. All of those programs, Kaisha and her staff have been dealing with residents and helping assist them. But our finance department, all they need to do, again, you can use the finance department at collegeparkmd.gov, and you can direct residents to contact them, and we'll walk them through exactly what they need to do.
Thank you. Thanks for doing it. Appreciate it. If there is no question, let's do acknowledgement. We do not have any elected officials in the room. And let's move to the proclamation and award, and we have one proclamation, and I need to go to the podium for that. So I can't believe this day has come.
I can't.
So after 18 years of service as a city clerk, today will be the last official day for Janine on the city council meeting. We'll be having a retirement party in about 2 weeks probably, but because today is our last day, so we thought that we'd do some kind of official proclamation recognizing all the hard work and the services she has done for the city council and the residents of College Park. So let me read the proclamation out, and then I'll let Janine to speak. Proclamation for Janine S. Miller, August 1st, 2024, because this proclamation will be read on the August 1st meeting. Whereas Janine was actively involved in her Barwin neighborhood, serving as chair of Barwin Neighborhood Watch and on the board of the Barwin Arts Exchange. And whereas in October 1994, Mayor Joe Page appointed Janine to lead the newly created Neighborhood Watch Coordinator Committee, helping to establish Neighborhood Watch programs throughout the city. And whereas Janine's work experience includes being a real shepherd, she continued to watch over her flock throughout her career. And whereas Janine began her career with the City of College Park on May 3rd, 2004 as an Office Specialist 3 in the Public Services Department, where she helped the director establish and organize the city's contract police program. And whereas on January 30, 2006, Janine was appointed city clerk, where she has served with distinction and professionalism. And whereas Janine served under 13 councils, led by 4 mayors during her tenure: Stephen A. Brayman, Andrew M. Fellis, Patrick L. Oyehan, and S.M. Fazil Kabir. And whereas Janine served under 4 city managers: Samuel F. Finns, Joseph L. Negro, Scott Summers, and Kenneth A. Young. And whereas during her 18 years as city clerk, Janine attended 650 city council meetings. Yeah, I repeat that. Janine attended 650 city council meetings, prepared thousands of pages of minutes, and conducted 12 successful elections. And whereas Janine helped the city digitize its records by creating a digital archive and scanning archival records. And whereas Janine served as the chair of the Maryland Municipal Clerks Association Education Committee from 2011 to 2016 and has been a valuable mentor for new city clerks who joined the association. And whereas the Maryland Municipal Clerk Association named Janine Clerk of the Year in 2015. And whereas Janine obtained her designation of Certified Municipal Clerk on December 1st, 2009, became a Certified Elections Registration Administrator on August 23rd, 2022, and a Master Municipal Clerk on September 1st, 2023. And whereas throughout the years of service as city clerk, Janine has helped residents, council members, and staff understand the operations of the city government and election process and procedures. She has accurately and efficiently answered questions ranging from the important to the mundane. Janine demonstrates the true meaning of a civil servant. She is a leader, a mentor, and a friend. Her presence and wealth of knowledge of municipal procedures at City Hall will be sorely missed. And whereas the City of College Park Mayor and Council wishes to thank Janine for her leadership and dedication for nearly 21 years of service. Now therefore, I, Fazil Kabir, Mayor of City of College Park, do hereby proclaim Thursday, August 1st, 2024, as Janine S. Miller Day. Thank you. You deserve it. So I repeat, therefore, I, Fazil Kabir, Mayor of the City of College Park, do hereby proclaim Thursday, August 1st, 2024, as Janine S. Miller Day in the City of College Park, and urge all staff, residents, colleagues, and friends to join us in expressing our deep appreciation for your exemplary service and dedication to the City of College Park. We wish you a happy and healthy retirement and congratulate you on a job extraordinarily well done. So proclaimed this 16th day of July, 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's
Thank
come.
you
Let's
very much.
take a photo together.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, this way.
Oh. I'm not sure what Janine S. Miller Day means, but yeah, it's actually my last day here, and we're having a party that day. You're all invited. I do want to say a few words. This is very weird, first of all. It's so strange to be leaving a job that you love, and on one hand, I really hate to leave this job. On the other hand, I'm tired, and I'm ready to be retired. I haven't quite figured out retirement yet, but I guess it's a good thing that I'm leaving on a high and leaving from a job that I've so thoroughly enjoyed. And it's been a pleasure and a privilege to work for the city. I'm very grateful for how this all worked out because, in case you don't know, I fell into this job by accident. When I started with the city, I worked for Bob Ryan in the Department of Public Services, and I had been there about 16 months when the city clerk position opened up. I had 3 people come and say, you should really apply for that. One was Bob Ryan, one was Peggy Higgins, and one was Joe Negro, the city manager. And I didn't really know what the job was, but they told me to apply, so I did. And then Joe hired me, and I came over to the city clerk's office, and thank goodness for Yvette, because Yvette was there already as the assistant city clerk and showed me the ropes. and I relied on her every single day since then. This was a perfect fit for me, this job. It was a perfect blend of my skills, my abilities, my interests, and every day I came to work learning something new, doing something new that I hadn't done before, and having this feeling of exhilaration and accomplishment, and feeling like I really was making a difference. And I loved that about this job. Not all jobs can give somebody that, and I feel so extraordinarily lucky. I want to thank Yvette, very especially Yvette, and the other people on the team, Elise, Latoya, Sue Ellen, Kenny, Bill, and every single council, mayor and council, that's from current all the way back, because you've always shown me so much support, and that means quite a lot, and I've appreciated every minute of it. I look forward to having more free time, not having an alarm clock to wake up to. I'm going to miss my friends. I'm going to miss this great sense of accomplishment I get every day. And I don't quite know what I'm going to do with myself yet, but I'm going to figure that out. And I hope to see you around. I hope they'll invite me back for city events, and so you'll be seeing me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ms. Miller, I would note that there's an opportunity for comment for consent agenda and non-agenda items every Tuesday night, and you can come back and relive your glory days and give us all of your thoughts every Tuesday night. We invite you to.
And I also wanted to note that every Friday is Hallelujah Friday from here on out.
Oh my goodness. All right, with that, let's move to the next agenda item, which is the amendments and approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The agenda has been approved. Now, we go to the audience. If you have any comments on non-agenda items or consent agenda items, you have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes to speak. I do not see any virtual hands. No one in the room wants to speak. Seeing none, let's go to the presentation, and this will be about Senior Advisory Committee's age-friendly work group on the progress of the city's ARP 5-year action plan. And I believe Mr. Robert Thurston will be taking it up. Welcome, and welcome everyone, every members of the Seniors Committee. Very hard work.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present. There it is. Take these. So first, I want to start off by thanking you all and applauding both staff and Mayor and Council for your support in helping the initiative of age-friendly College Park. I don't know if it was your intent to do so. I believe it is. But many of the activities that you have undertaken, some of them you've mentioned tonight, really fall in line with the objectives of the livable communities. And I just want to say that implementation of the staff and approval of Mayor and Council has allowed us to reach this point that I'm going to address with you tonight. There are, better take these off. There are key points of the document that I want to just highlight. As I mentioned before, the city has taken on the responsibility and has shown much support of our efforts, and I can't be remiss by not encouraging you to continue to do so. I'm going to talk a little bit about the collaboration of highlights that I'm thanking you for, and asking for your continued support and community engagement. The work group aims to improve housing, transportation, communication, social participation, and health services. As you know, ARP has 8 domains. We have chosen 5 that we feel will make an immediate impact in College Park, and is doing so now. Some recent actions that I wanted to highlight, and when I mentioned the city's actions, all the things that are listed here are activities that the city has already been in process of conducting, or since our inception in 2021, 2020, these things have come to fruition. In addition to the activities, there's been some community events that are on the horizon. I know the first community activity, which is going to happen in Hollywood on the 18th, although not from the ARP work group, but generally it has been our desire to create more activities and social opportunities for the city. And that's one example of that. The work group accomplishments. One of the biggest things that I think we have had an opportunity to do is, one, involve others in our opportunity to improve the livability of the city. The other thing I think has been important is we have identified activities that we are doing that really fit into that goal of the livable communities. Still have some work to do, but we are, every time I attend, or anyone in the group has attended a larger setting, we come away with some ideas, but we also come away with knowing we're a little bit further ahead than we thought we were. So that's been a very encouraging opportunity. Listing the partnerships there is just a few, but there are many more that we have come in contact with. I think these are more activities where we have had some material follow-up and activities to continue with, but we are still working to that goal. The Did You Know articles, which may seem insignificant to you in having that put into our newsletters and different publications, but it has been extremely important to us, and it really encourages us to continue to focus on better ways to communicate within the city. Leading our charge for this coming year is to really engage this lead position for the age-friendly College Park. Again, thank you for this becoming a reality and allowing it to be an active part of our plan. What's next? Again, I mentioned the Did You Know articles, but we feel that is really making an impact on getting the word out as far as what we're trying to accomplish and how it fits into the city. The work group is really engaged in trying to, one, recruit Janine, and also to try to continue to get the word out and letting the city know that although these are very young seniors that I have working with me, this has nothing to do with age. This is to help the entire city be comfortable with being here from the time they land to whenever they feel comfortable with leaving, and hopefully we feel like we'll offer enough that that won't be necessary. Again, I just want to thank you for your participation in this process. It sometimes seems like we're operating alone, but then there are things that happen that make us realize that we are making a difference. Moving forward, for mayor and council and staff, I would just ask for your continued support, help to integrate the new position in so that it can be effective in achieving our goals. For the rest of the College Park community, we invite you to attend meetings that we have. We invite you to attend community activities. We look to attend as many community activities as we can to get the word, continue to get the word out. Volunteer. Don't have to put in the, 3 years that we have so far. But if you're interested in just doing some type of activity, or if there's something that sparks your interest, please let us know, and we would gladly entertain your suggestions and, more importantly, your input in how to make that happen. Staying informed. Please keep in mind that we are moving forward to a goal of becoming a certified age-friendly city, and we hope to accomplish that in the next 2 years. So in that process, we would like to get the whole city involved and on board. One thing that we do see as something that we feel will help the city, but possibly help the dais as well, is we're realizing that some of the things that we would like to achieve really require advocacy and some policy changes, especially when it comes to housing and transportation. We want you to know that we're behind you, and we want you to know that we're trying to make sure that those goals are achievable as well as possible. And finally, you know, we're not trying to operate in a vacuum, so we expect and appreciate any feedback that you can possibly provide for us. And I should have done this before, but I would like to ask for the committee to stand to be recognized as the driving force behind that. Usually they ask the pretty one to present. I'm not sure why I'm here. But in any case, I thank you for your time. I do want to just leave you with one thing. The overall index, although we are not operating based on the index of ARP, I just want you to know that the College Park Index is 54, which is top half of communities in the U.S. And going back to what I said, our areas of opportunities are, many of those next steps require some type of policy change or initiative that really is in existence in College Park right now, and we're more than willing to fight with you to see those come through. So thank you for your time. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for your hard work. And thank you, staff, Keisha Barber, and your staff for supporting the seniors committee. And we have spent a lot of time with them. Any questions? I see a couple of hands raised. I believe Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell first, right? Is it okay?
I don't, thank you so very much for your presentation. I don't have a question, but I just want to say, again, thank you so much for all of you for what you do. I remember when this evolved in 2015, when we talked about aging in place, and now it's evolved to this, and it's truly, truly fantastic. But also on another note, you never know who's watching what other municipalities and towns and cities are doing. I had the opportunity to go to Chicago about 2 weeks ago, and the mayor of Chicago approached me, and he said, "You from the city of College Park, Maryland?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're doing the age friend?" I said, "Oh, yes." He said, "They are doing some great things, and we would like to have opportunity to talk to the committee because they are struggling in Chicago." So kudos to you because you never know, but everyone spoke very highly of you in the city of Chicago. So thank you.
Thank you. Well deserved. Councilmember Whitney.
Definitely also want to say thank you for all of your hard work. I'm really excited about this initiative and what I think we can accomplish as a city. Are there particular policy initiatives that kind of rise to the top for you that you're thinking should be prioritized?
Well, it's kind of controversial right now, I know.
Okay,
but,
that's fine.
You're still debating.
Well, no, I mean, I know it's a controversial discussion, but the county approval of ADUs from an affordability standpoint in housing, and the reason why I said I know it has some possible heightened awareness just because we are a college town, and I know some people are concerned about that, but it has been proven that that does kind of lower the overall cost of housing when it and where it's used effectively. That would be number one. The number two thing for me, of course, I have housing and transportation, so I'll let everybody else talk in a minute. But somehow we need to continue to provide a real picture of College Park when it comes to transportation, because everyone looks at transportation for College Park and sees all of these public transportation vehicles meeting here, but for many of our population, 3 blocks could be 3 miles. So as transportation is developing positively within the city, making sure that it is something that is accessible to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you guys want to bring up?
I have a follow-up question, kind of related, and you mentioned something very important, which is the livability index, which is, I believe you said 55, College Park has
54.
54.
On a 100-point scale.
Have you had any discussion within your group or you're planning to do to set a target of this index number figure? Say in the next 5 years or 10 years, what do you want to achieve? Where do you want to stay on this number?
That would be good, but I think, again, that would require a joint conversation because we don't have the wherewithal to understand, well, I'm gonna speak for self. I don't have the wherewithal to understand policy implementation and initiative, and a lot of the things, I like to compliment the group on the low hanging fruit and the things that we can accomplish. We're going full force at those things. The things that, and we probably could do a better job of identifying those areas where we need to work jointly to try to make those next steps, and that's something
absolutely, and we'll be supporting you any way we can.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Estes and Ms. Mackey.
I just wanted to thank you all for being everywhere. So when I think of the number of events where I've seen you participate, do activities, it has been consistent, and definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. And thank you, Mr. Thurston, for bringing up the what is controversial as far as the ADUs and other policy changes. But one of the things that I have continued to hear from those who are aging in the community is the need for housing and the need to be able to downsize, which hasn't been very available, and we've lost people. So we want to ensure that people are able to stay. So thank you for the work that you're doing to help achieve that as well as many other things.
Thank you. Can probably have another conversation on that. Councilmember, actually Councilmember Mackey and then Councilmember Hernandez.
I'll go quick because Councilmember Esther mentioned what I was going to say, but I also do want to say that we want to work with you to move forward in the different areas that you want to move forward. So I hope that you will, continue to engage with us, and it's very important that that we are looking out for the aging population. And as Dr. Esther said, we need places where people can downsize and live in something smaller, or I actually am thinking of that myself. I don't need my big house anymore because I don't have 5 kids living with me anymore. So, and another thing that I really learned that is really needed in our community is, adult activities during the day, so that there are things for, it's so important for people to be with other people and not to be isolated. And I just want to, encourage you to come to us with any ideas you might have for ways that the city can help seniors to be with each other during the day and to do things together, because isolation is not very good for the aging process, as we all know. So thank you very much for all that you do, for the report that you're doing, and please continue to give us your ideas. If you think that we need to be doing something, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hernandez.
Hi. I've heard so much about all the great things you all have done, and in the short time on council here, have been able to be a part of really helping implement some of the policy objectives you all have presented and push forward to council. I'd like to challenge you all with one thing. Being one of the younger folks up here on the dais, and that's all credit to the wisdom next to me. I have a hard time really being able to articulate, how important it is to take care of aging parents in long-term care. And it's not something that's really talked about across the community. Mom lives with me, so we're in it for a while. But I think it's such an important thing that if we can be a little bit more educated on, we can actually start to try to think ahead rather than when it's too late and it becomes such a financial burden for those folks who haven't necessarily taken the time to invest in what it looks like post 65, post 70, post 75. I can say that from just my own perspective. It's not something I would have known unless I started talking to folks. So I'd love to see some sort of education campaign or how we can help you all work together to make sure that we raise awareness in that sort of sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments? Seeing none, thank you again for everything you do, and thank you for your hard work. Keep up the good work, and please keep coming.
Thank
and we want to support you any way you can. Thank you. All right. The next item on the business. Oh, please come over. Absolutely, please do come over. Welcome.
Thank you. I would just like to talk to the difference of what is coming and what has been. Everybody's been working hard. Everyone's been very supportive and wonderful. But with a lead, we will have an opportunity to have a liaison with you and the staff on a regular basis, starting as soon as that person is in place. So think about that. My ask and our ask to all of you is that you be open to working with that person, because we need that conduit to you. It's been hard without it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Seeing none, let's move to the next item right now. This is about approval of the consent agenda. We have 3 items tonight's agenda, and let me read them out, and then I'll entertain a motion. The first item is 24G78, which is the approval of annual renewal of the Stella software licensing contract by use of the public services planning and engineering staff in the amount of $62,230.37 for the period of July 26, 2024 through July 25, 2025. The next item is 24R07, which is the adoption of the resolution to establish the policy and procedures to handle small cell wireless applications. And the final one is 24G 109, which is the appointment of Attic Towers resident Mr. Albert Melvin as the resident commissioner to the College Park Housing Authority for a term to end May 1st, 2026.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Dr. Esters and seconded by, I believe, Councilmember Rigg. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The consent agenda has been approved. We have only one action item tonight, which is about the introduction of the ordinance 24003 with the proposed changes to the city's noise code, and this will be taken by our attorney, Nate Foreman. Please come over. Welcome. Turn on the mic.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Nate Foreman with the City Attorney's Office. I do what Stephanie tells me to do. This ordinance this evening is a motion to introduce an ordinance in response to recommendations that were made by the Noise Control Board to the Mayor and Council during their appearance at the March 19th, 2024 meeting, and one proposed change to the configuration of the noise ordinance. A public hearing has been scheduled for this matter on August 7th, and I believe this information was previously provided to the Mayor and City Council in the red folder. But if the Mayor and City Council wish, I am more than happy to briefly describe the revisions that are proposed in this ordinance.
I think it would be helpful if we could go over briefly. Yeah. It's also in the published agenda as well, not only red folders. So.
All right, thank you. Oh, and I do also want to make one clarification to the packet that was in there. In addition to the resolution, which is found on pages, what's that? 86 to 101, the working draft in the binder was also included, excuse me, on pages 102 to 111. That's just supplemental. The real ordinance would be, as I mentioned, should have written that down, 86 to 101. Is there any questions about that issue, about the supplemental work draft that was included in the agenda packet?
It might, yeah, it looks like you don't have any question, but you wanna, maybe you can go over the major changes, the bullets?
Yeah, I'll go over the changes themselves. I just wanted to
Then
make
we
sure
can come
that
back on that.
Yeah.
what was actually being discussed is the resolution itself, not the working draft. The one minor change that was made to the noise ordinance was to separate the acts exempt from the ordinance from the acts prohibited from the ordinance, just to reduce confusion. As I was going through these changes, I just noticed how sometimes I would get lost and find where to find the exemptions, so I thought it might be useful to just separate those out. Turning to the substantive issues now, the other major change concerns disclosures that are made during noise disturbance investigations by tenants or occupants to city code enforcement or any other authorized law enforcement. A civil citation could be issued for a tenant or owner of real property if they fail to produce or provide identification when requested during a noise disturbance investigation. Similarly, it would also authorize a citation to be issued to an individual that knowingly or fraudulently identifies himself as an owner or occupant of the real property during a noise disturbance investigation. And additionally, if it is admitted by one of the tenants or somebody being questioned during the noise disturbance investigation, that the owner or the owner's agent was advising that tenant or occupant to provide false identification to the city during the same noise disturbance investigation, that the public service director could request a show cause hearing before the Advisory Planning Commission to revoke the use and occupancy permit. And then finally, the last change involves that a noise control board hearing could be requested on the basis that one or more residents affirms by affidavit that a noise disturbance has occurred. This would relieve the burden of instances of where two individuals are required to submit written complaints to the city. So the either or would be two written complaints to the city by two individuals, or one individual affirming by attesting by affidavit of the noise complaint. So that sums up the changes that were made to the noise board, to the noise code.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. All right. Now let's go for. Do you have further?
Oh, no, I'm just here to answer your questions.
Absolutely. I'm sure there could be more. Councilor Whitney.
Yes, I would just like to have some clarification on the maximum citation for a noise violation, because if you look at page 97 of the packet, page 12 of 24003, it says on 138.11, subsection C, it says that in the event that there are more than one owner and/or more than one occupant, the fine shall be imposed upon each owner and upon each occupant who has been found in violation of this chapter, except that in the event that there is more than one occupant, the fine shall be divided proportionately among those occupants who have been found to have violated this chapter. So I'm just, initially when I was reading through this, I was thinking the initial fine was $250, and if you have 5 occupants, that's $50 a person, which doesn't seem very, prohibitive or scary of a fine. So I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Thank you, Council Member. So that was in the initial language of the ordinance. I did not change that, but it sounds like that may be something to reconsider when this draft is up for a public hearing and work session.
Yeah, I would consider changing that. It was in all caps, so I thought it was new, so.
Yes, I had it in all caps because it used to be in a different section. So I cut it from there and moved over here, but I think that's still a great point because I think that would still be something to revise and discuss as how we want to address that.
Okay. Yeah, agreement, it sounds like roughly. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Reed. Oh, sure. If there's no other question, thank you.
Can I just ask a question, just a procedural question?
Please.
Yeah. How does this ordinance get introduced, or like how do we tell the residents? How do we, as a city, tell the residents that this is coming?
Get feedback?
Yeah.
So there will be public hearing, which will be on August 7th.
Excuse
At
me,
that time,
sorry.
they can come and speak.
Apologies, it's right there on the thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Quick question for clarification. So you are going to go back and make the recommendations in section 138 for the fines in conjunction to what Councilmember Whitney just asked?
Yes, I will discuss with your Public Services Director, with the City Attorney, Ms. Anderson, about how best to draft this language to be responsive to Ms. Councilmember Whitney's question.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Miller?
I guess I'd like to clarify, if we're introducing the ordinance tonight, the public hearing will be on the ordinance as it is introduced tonight. So if the council wishes to make any changes, you would have to act as a body to bring an amendment to that ordinance.
Right.
The alternative is, if you're not ready to introduce it, if you want to have a discussion about this or other matters, then you can have it revised before you introduce it.
Right.
So you could do that
It
now
depends.
and not introduce it the way it's written, or you could wait and do that on another
Yeah.
day.
What's your preference? What does the council think? Ms. Whitney?
I can make a motion for an amendment, and we can see where the body stands on that, if that is appropriate to do it that way. I can be pretty concise in changing the language.
Because it hasn't been introduced yet, Mr. Reed can actually include that
Okay.
statement in
Okay.
the change.
I'm sorry, I'm confused procedurally is mainly the thing.
Well, it's not introduced, so you would we would have to, I think it's probably best, if there's some, so this is the noise control board section is what we're discussing, is what you're specifically discussing. And that's been a part of the code that hasn't really changed, I think probably ever since, because the noise control board's so infrequently used. You know, it's not something that, I don't think that particular provisions, at least in my time in city council, has ever been utilized either. So, which isn't to say that we shouldn't modify it, but I would be reluctant to encumber a very full agenda tonight by sort of on-the-fly amendments, and would be more inclined to try to work session it if you have substantive concerns, is my preference.
Yeah, it looks like the preference is to introduce tonight and probably bring it up later on with more discussion. That's probably. Is that your preference?
I guess I'm just a little confused procedurally. I kind of understand what you said, but my suggestion was just going to be to take out the division of the fine amongst the occupants, to just take that section out and allow the fine to apply to each one of the occupants. And I understood the clerk to say that if that change were to be made, that we should make it tonight. And I saw a lot of heads nodding on the dais when I suggested it. So I'm just not sure what the proper path forward is. I'm amenable to whatever it is, but I'm not sure what I'm misunderstanding,
Ms. Miller.
but it's something.
I guess it wasn't, I'm not sure, I wasn't clear whether the council understood and agreed to the change being proposed by Councilmember Whitney. And if you're ready to actually make that change before you introduce the ordinance tonight, or do you want to wait and introduce it as is, and then after the public hearing, you could entertain any amendments before you adopt it?
Okay.
So that's your alternative.
I also think that we could use the public hearing to hear from the noise control board, who understand their part of the code better than anybody other than our attorneys, perhaps. So, all right.
I'm very comfortable with that,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
And just a reminder that you don't have to adopt the ordinance right after the public hearing. You can go back and wordsmith it or tweak it however you
We
want.
can come another night to vote on it. Yeah. Please go ahead and introduce it.
All right, I'll go ahead and introduce. I move to introduce ordinance 24-0-03, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of College Park, amending City Code Chapter 138 noise, sections 138.5 prohibited acts and exemptions, section 138.6 violations and penalties, section 138.7 notice, 138.8 proceedings of noise control board, 138.9 imposition of a fine by the noise control board, and 138.10 copies of provisions to be provided. And to amend Chapter 110, fees and penalties, by amending Section 110-2, penalties, to reorganize the noise ordinance, to impose certain mandatory disclosures during noise disturbance investigations, and impose penalties for violations, prohibit false identification of owner or tenant during a noise disturbance investigation, and impose penalties for violations, to authorize revocation of use and occupancy permits based on multiple instances of noise disturbances, and to make other clarifying and conforming changes.
Is there any second?
Second.
All right, so today is the introduction. We are not going to vote on it. So there will be a public hearing on August 7. At that night, we can discuss more and make more changes and possibly adopt it, or maybe come another day, another night to adopt it. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To my colleague, Mr. Hernandez's question, is it possible to get some bullet points of information, so some of us who do send out a e-news, we can send it to our residents to let them know about the public hearing and the rationale behind why we're making the changes to this chapter? Is that so?
I would be more than happy to work with the city administration office to provide the bullet points to be disseminated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for help. I like that. Good. Let's move to the action item. We only have, actually, not action item, work session. We have 4 work sessions, and the first one is about a request by the College Park Airport Authority to send a letter to the city's federal representatives requesting the contact TSA. They contact TSA to allow an increase in on-demand operations at the airport, and this will be taken by Dave Dorsch, who is the chair of College Park Airport Authority, and Lee Sommer. I'm not sure he has joined online. Mr. Dorsch, welcome, and thank you for your work.
Good
Please go
evening,
ahead.
Mayor and Council.
All yours.
As you probably all know, College Park is very lucky to have the oldest continually operating airport in the entire world. Many things started at this airport. Airmail started here. Military aircraft started here, and various things like that. So we have a very proud heritage here at this airport. Unfortunately, as what happened with 9/11 in 2001, TSA put severe restrictions on local airports around, for instance, Washington, D.C. And we're still suffering under those restrictions. What actually happened was we used to have shops that repair engines for aircraft and various things like that here. They all had to move out because they couldn't get any business anymore. So it's really put a damper on the airport operations here. And what we're asking is that the city write to our congressional representatives and ask them to go to TSA for us and make some minor changes here to the rules and regulations so that the College Park Airport can continue to operate and operate efficiently. In other words, we had here a while ago an aircraft operation out of New York. They actually land in the river up there. And I think they just call into TSA the names of the passengers they're going to take before they pick them up. They wanted to come into here. And the main reason is because our airport is very close to the metro system. You can walk from the airport to the metro. So it's a great thing to get downtown DC and things like that. But TSA wouldn't let them do it because they didn't have a TSA counter here to check people in and out. So what we're asking is that and you have a copy of the letter, that the city ask our congressional representatives to go to TSA and ask them to make some minor changes here that will allow this airport to operate more efficiently than it can right now, because we'd really like to see it live up to as much of its potential as it can. Any questions?
I'm sure there will be a few. I have one question, and thank you for your work on the letter and in the packet. You did mention that the changes that you are requesting will not have significant impact on the residents of College Park. Can you
No.
speak to that? Why you think so?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about by changes. You know, we're not going to be changing the flight paths at all. They'll stay the same. You might have a few more aircraft coming in than we have right now, but you're not going to, double or triple it. So we're not talking about a tremendous change in the number of aircraft coming in and out. And I don't think that any kind of noise situation is going to be a problem at all.
So when you say on-demand service change, will
Right.
there be any additional traffic?
Well, yes, that's what we're talking about, being able to allow some additional traffic in here.
How much do you expect in terms of
I have
percentage?
no
And
way
do you have any
of,
ballpark?
I have no way of knowing, but it might be another 2 or 3 planes a day.
Okay.
We're not talking of hundreds here, that's for sure. I'd like to think that, but no.
Okay. No, I just want to have a feeling on that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see some hand raises on my left. Actually, quite a few of them. I don't know who actually raised first. I'll give my District 3 council members chance first because the airport is in District 3, right? All right, Mr. Adams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dorsch, for being here, and definitely thank you for your time that you spend at this really important asset of the city of College Park that you well described. I had a question. Would this apply to both, airplanes as well as helicopters, or is this strictly for airplanes?
It would apply to both, but I don't see a tremendous change in the helicopter. Right now, most of the helicopter traffic is police.
Understood, and I will acknowledge, though, that as someone who lives somewhat proximate to the airport, you know, the helicopters definitely seem to have the more
Yes.
noise and
Yes.
rattling.
Yes.
And so with this being applying to both, that does factor into,
Yep.
you know, what the impacts would be to our residents.
Well, one of the things that's happening, I don't know if you know about it or not, but we have VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing aircraft now.
Yep.
And many of them are being made of composites, which make them very much lighter than the aluminum aircraft. And these are being used in many places like taxi service between places within the town. Like you fly from here to downtown DC or someplace like that. So that's starting now. We don't have that here at this airport yet, but that's a possibility for something.
Understood. I believe that's in New York and some places like that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, you know, as I look at this request, I really feel compelled to, ask the folks within the commission to reach out to our civic associations and really that would be impacted in the communities that are directly there. Yarrow, College Park Estates, Calvert Hills, Old Town, Lakeland, Berwyn. I really think we need to go out there and put this out front in front of our residents and really get direct feedback. And I know it will take time, but this is a notable decision. And I think I would be a lot more comfortable with us making a determination if we got that feedback and heard that, you know, the airport authority has gone out to the civic associations and really actively sought their input. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Good suggestions. Councilman Rigg?
Yeah, thanks. And Mr. Dorsch, thank you for coming out tonight. A question for you. Was the vote to put this in front of council unanimous on the commission?
Well, we've been kind of working on this for over a year. We've had several votes. And the last one that we took here, I think it was 6-1 in favor of moving forward with this.
Okay. I would guess at the identity of the one, but
You probably got it.
and I think, you know, her continued voice of advocacy for the residents of District 3 who are bothered by noise from the airport is longstanding. She owns maybe the only house that existed before the airport that's in the flight pattern. So
Not sure about that,
well,
but we'd have to, because I think the airport started about 1909, somewhere in there.
she has a house that dates from that era.
Okay.
So, you know, she herself doesn't date from that era.
No, I was
but-
gonna say, I
but the
don't- I
house,
don't
the house
think
does.
she's from
And so, you
1909,
know,
no.
she certainly has plenty of opportunity to be able to express
Yeah.
concerns, especially since the flight pattern
She
tends
does
to
quite
go
often.
kind of right over her house. So I share, you know, Mr. Adams' interest in hearing the voices of the civic associations here, but I think that I would also add that I think there's a balance to be made. Can you tell me how many at its peak pre 9/11, how many flights per day left College Park, or how many airplanes were served, maybe proportionally to what they are now, or how many more in terms of overall number?
I don't have the exact numbers. I can get them, but I don't have them right now. But the traffic now is substantially, I mean, probably about 60 to 70% less than it was prior to 9/11.
Okay, I'm surprised it's only 60 to 70%. To be honest
It
with
might
you.
even be more than that.
Right.
I'm not sure, but like I say, I don't have the exact figures, but I can get them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm more than willing to consider this. I would ask for a little bit more community outreach, you know, on behalf of
Okay.
the airport authority. I think on the other side of the equation is, you're right, the historical nature of this airport and the importance to our community. I mean, it features prominently in a quarter of the city's seal, essentially, and it's. It has been a notable feature of our community for longer than there's been a city of College Park. So
Yep.
so I'm inclined to try to strike the right balance here, and would be inclined to support. But you know, as Mr. Adams pointed out, I think some more engagement is probably a good idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to my District 2 colleagues, because the airport is also close to their neighborhood. Ms. Whitney?
Yes, I just wanted to say I've heard concerns from residents about leaded fuel being used at the airport, and
What do you think is the problem with the leaded fuel at the airport that the residents have expressed concerns about?
well, lead is dangerous, even small, there's no safe level of lead, and adding more traffic would add potentially more exposure.
Well, actually, we're in the process of trying to change that.
I know, and I
And-
would love to see that happen before we substantially
Well,
add traffic at the airport.
It has to do with what the engines are capable of burning. It's just like your car. You can't go out there, if it's a gasoline car, and put diesel fuel in it. You know what's going to happen, right? You're not going anywhere. So the same thing here, you have to be very careful about what you do to your airplane engine, because you know what happens when you get up there and the engine stops. It's not like your car, you can't pull to the side of the road. So that's why we're very concerned that the fuel that's necessary for the planes is available. And they are in the process of changing that stuff now. But it isn't going to happen overnight, just from what they tell me. So we're looking at that, that's for sure.
Yes.
But we don't have any little children laying on the runway out there because they got
No, but
overcome
within,
by the
yes.
fuel.
Within half a mile of the airport
Yeah.
are elementary schools.
I understand.
And playgrounds.
I
and-
understand.
So that is my concern, is
Yeah.
that, and that is the concern I've heard from some
Okay.
residents. So that's.
We're
I
working
just
on it.
Wanted to express that.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Dr. Esther, did you raise your hand? Please go ahead.
And I want to thank Councilmember Rigg and Councilmember Adams for bringing up my concerns.
Okay.
And wanting more input from the community. And just as Councilmember Whitney mentioned, you know, right within that pattern, there is an elementary school. And we want to ensure the safety of the children and the people that are in the community. My other question was
That
really-
elementary, excuse me, that elementary school was there before 9/11 though, wasn't it?
It was indeed. However, Mr.
Okay.
Dortch, you're talking about a change in regulations that occurred almost 23 years ago. So in that time, I think we need to understand what that looked like, what the community has gotten used to, and what they can certainly tolerate, and what is safe. So I look forward to more information so that we can make a more informed decision.
What would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be that we have more information so that we can then.
I mean, other than the information itself, so I know where to look.
I don't know what that
Okay.
recommendation is because I need to have more information.
Okay.
I think it's
What
it's
kind of in-
challenging when we have 23 years have passed. There are people who've lived in the community for that entire time, people who have just come to the community, and now would be a major change in air traffic. And there are some exposures that could be unsafe, and I think we need to just have more information.
Okay, again, what kind of information are you looking for there?
I'm looking for the information about the numbers of flights.
Numbers of flights? Okay.
Yes, yes, that were prior to 9/11 that were in the airstream, and what that looked like. Noise, I think that is also very important to those within the community. And I think that Councilmember Whitney's reference to lead fuel is something that is a very serious consideration.
Okay.
Good questions. Thank you. Before we go to Ms. Mackey, so you mentioned about there could be at most 2 or 3 flights, additional flights a day if they're adopted. Is there any way to regulate that? The reason I'm saying, say for example, TSA agrees to it and this policy is in place, and we see all of a sudden we have, instead of 2 or 3, we have 20 or 30 additional flights. What do you do then?
Well, I think it can be regulated, 2 or 3 additional flights to, I'm not sure what the daily flight thing is here now, but if I had to guess, I'm going to guess it's like 4 or 5 flights a day. For an operating airport, that's an extremely small number.
Okay, yeah, it would be helpful, again.
But as she asked for, I'll be able to get that information for
Exactly.
you and get you those numbers.
And how do you get these numbers?
Yeah,
It will be very helpful.
right. I can check with Lee at the airport there. He's got all those statistics.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Mackey? And then Mr. Hill.
Yes.
You don't have? Okay. Ms. Hill. Sorry, Ms. Mackey, please go ahead.
Yes, I was just wondering, And I also concur with my colleagues and the mayor here about each one of their recommendations and suggestions. I wanted to know would the TSA be setting up like a TSA, I'm sorry, can you hear me all right? Would TSA be setting up like a TSA stand and counter and that kind of thing at the airport?
I don't think so.
Okay. My second question is, you said that there would be commuter flights, but you're saying commuter flights, but not commercial commuter flights, like private commuter flights?
There could be private commuter flights, but I'm not sure about when you mentioned commercial commuter flights. For instance, the air operation that was going to come in from New York, that would have been a commercial type operation. They carry passengers. They carry passengers to several New England destinations up there, and they wanted to start carrying passengers down here.
Right, I remember that.
Remember that one, yeah.
Yes. I think that would be something very important for us to know if that was going to happen again in College Park. And I think my colleagues asked all the other questions that I had, so if you could,
Okay.
if you could let us know
Yep.
those things in the future and engage with the community.
Okay.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And you know how to reach out to the community associations there.
Oh, sure.
You've been here for a long time. Great. Do you have any further questions for us before we go forward?
Do we have one?
Yeah. So you'll be reaching out to the community, and you'll be also trying to get the information. The
Yeah,
council
well, I'll
has
get this information first here.
Okay. And Mr. Hernandez, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So what are the existing conditions you're asking to be lifted?
I'm sorry, what was that? I couldn't.
What are
hear.
the existing conditions you're asking to be lifted?
Right now, the way TSA has it set up, they severely limited the types of aircraft that can come in. First of all, you don't get any jets in here. The
Sure.
runway is not long enough for jets. So all we have is prop planes, and 1 and 2 prop planes for the most part. In fact, if you look at what's sitting on the runway, I don't think there's any of them out there that have more than 1 prop on them. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure what we can tell you on that at this point. Is the point I guess I'm trying to make on that.
So I mean, in order for us to kind of be supportive, or to be supportive of this letter, right? We're gonna have to ask our federal representatives what exactly they're asking to lift. As you may know,
Right.
that just hold on, let me finish. All right, as you may know, the FAA reauthorization just recently passed. I think that would have been an excellent opportunity for us to be able to send something to our federal representatives so that they could have included it in that piece of legislation. So just to be clear, I mean, every one of us has kind of provided our concerns that we're trying to thread with you. So just help us understand specifically what it is that you would like us to ask as a mayor and council from our federal reps.
Basically, we want to be able to allow more aircraft to come in, commercial type, small commercial type aircraft to be coming in here.
So what is the current restriction on that?
I don't know the exact terminology that that TSA uses on that. I can find it out for you. And
Is it a
and get
weight
you that.
limit? Is it a pax limit?
No, it's a type limit.
A type of aircraft limit?
Well, not so much the type of aircraft, but the type of flight that it is. In other words, if it's a flight, for instance.
If it's an IFR flight, if it's a VFR flight?
No, that's instrument rules versus
Right.
visual. But if, for instance, a plane from College Park, they can go out, fly around, come back.
Sure.
No, not a problem.
For recreational use?
Plane from New York, for instance, or something like that, that can fly in here, but it can't bring any passengers in type things.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things are part of what was prohibited by TSA. And this was all because of what happened on 9/11. They made a very strict clamp down around D.C., especially D.C. So what we're just asking them for is to lift some of that, not all of it, but some of that, so that we can, maintain the airport here.
Sure. I think I think that in addition to what my colleagues have asked for with regards to the research that the committee can do the next time they come and present, I'd like to kind of have an idea of what it is that we're asking to be lifted. Because if
Okay.
it's just the inclusion of passengers and it's 1 or 2 passengers, I mean, that's okay. But if it's 30, 40 passengers on a prop plane, right?
You're not gonna get that here.
But it's hard to know when we don't know what we're asking
Okay.
for.
No.
In addition to, it would be interesting to understand the financial incentives that could come into place should we allow an addition of commercial aircrafts to come through College Park. It would help us be able to make a more informed decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I see more hands.
More hands.
Ms. Mitchell, is it the first time? Or okay, Mr. Adams. Yeah, these are.
Yeah,
second
I'll
round.
try to be brief here, and just, definitely would highly encourage reaching out to the civic associations, but, as this discussion continues, to me, it seems like we're theoretically saying if commercial flights were allowed at this airport, there is a demand for that. Do we have any tangible data that says there actually is a demand, and what is that demand? So I think that would be another, you don't have to answer that tonight, but that would be another data point.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of market research? Have you looked at, what the demand is, so then we can be more informed in whatever decision is made? Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem and
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Adams, for what you just said about the data point in regards to demand, but also the data in regards to environmental impact. Councilmember Dr. Estes has talked about, because there's a school right there, sometimes there are long-term effects from the environmental impacts of the planes. So is there information you can give us regarding that in conjunction to the other things that have been requested from you? Not saying to say it tonight, but can you get some information in regards to the environmental impact? And forgive me my voice.
I think you are referring to lead pollution.
Yes.
In the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This environmental, did you have a specific thing on the environmental side of this that you were thinking about? Did you have a specific item on the environmental side you were thinking about?
Well, referencing to what Dr. S was talking about, the lead and how
Lead.
that affects. So,
That's a very, very minor thing, but we are trying to get that out of the fuel at the present time. It's not something that can be done overnight. You just can't turn things on and off. So, in fact, if Lee was here, he could probably tell you where we are exactly with that right now. But I personally don't know the exact timing on this.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem is asking about that information, about the amount of lead. So if you get that information. Thank you, Dr. Estes.
Mr. Dorsch,
Sure.
Can you, I'm going to go back to Councilmember Hernandez's question about
Okay.
what you're asking for. So just for some level of clarity, are you asking specifically for restrictions to be lifted to what they were prior to 9/11? Because you've referenced and said you want some of them lifted, but you haven't really indicated what you're looking for.
Did you get to read a copy of the letter?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And that's basically what we're asking for in there, is that specifically reducing the size of the FRZ to coincide with the surface up to 10,000 foot layer of Washington Class B airspace. This is all airport talk.
Exactly. So the reason for my question is to clarify that a bit.
Right.
Does that mean specifically that you're looking for restrictions to be lifted to what they were prior to 9/11?
Some of them. I don't know that we're looking for all of them.
Well, I think that
Okay.
the clarity on that would
All
be
right.
helpful to us as well.
Okay. So exactly which restrictions are lifted is the ones you're asking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, before I go, Ms. Miller, do you have it?
I wanted to ask a question of Mr. Dorsch. There's an operating agreement or rules that are approved that the airport operates under. Can you remind me, what is it between the airport and who, the FAA or? So it might be helpful when you come back with the other information if those rules and operating rules and regulations are provided to council so they can see that. And then my other question is, would any of those rules and regulations that are currently in place need to be amended based on this request?
Well, I think part of that is what the current operating rules are, which is what we have to operate under now, which is set by TSA. And one of the things that we're requesting is that they modify some of those rules, not all of those rules, to allow more aircraft to come in and out of the airport. So, yes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I have got a few more second bites. Councilmember Mankey.
I'll be quick.
Yeah,
I think
please
what
do.
my colleague was trying to ask is there any data that you can give to us about schools being near small airports? If you could include that in your future report to us, that would be helpful.
Schools being close to small airports, is that?
Yes.
Other
yes,
airports,
Yes,
yeah.
because I've heard that from my colleague in District 4, my colleague in District 2, and I think that that would be important to us in making this decision. Just
Okay.
having some data on that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Hugh, first bite, so please go ahead. Yeah, it's fucking, yeah.
Yeah. So, trying to think about it. So when 9/11 happened, well, a little bit after, a few months after, I understand there was a contact made from, I think it was someplace in France. It had the second oldest continuously operated airport in the world.
I'm not sure where that is, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, you know, it went, and this is for kind of history background for my colleagues. They asked, so is your airport still being operated? Because we hear that, you know, a lot of restrictions have been put on American, you know, flights and things. And the College Park Airport had requested that they not be shut down, that heavy regulations be put on them so they could be still considered a continuously operated airport. Some of these things, these restrictions were very heavy to prevent, you know, actual flying, but not close it down. And I understand that these are some of the ones you want to lighten so that we can come into a modern day usage of the airport, considering the threats that are out there that we need to address, but the other restrictive, overly restrictive restrictions need to be adjusted at this point. And I fully understand that. I know that they once were trying to make anybody who wanted to utilize the airport come to DC to get fingerprinted at the FAA in person instead of at any other field offices. So I know that there were many restrictions put on this airport. And I'm very defensive about this airport. You know, I don't want to see anything, you know, threaten its livelihood and its functionality as our oldest continuously operated airport in the world. So please, for the sake of my colleagues, you know, I think they need to hear for themselves what some of these restrictions were that, you know, really could be done away with. And and reaching out to the Civic Association. There are things in airport operations that can be done to address noise issues and things like that I'm aware of because I have followed these sort of things. The speed of which they take off, the altitude at which they get, and the timing of all these things. So I think that maybe those kind of issues could make things clearer for my colleagues.
Appreciate it.
Good point. Okay. Ms. Whitney has second bites, and then Mr. Hernandez. If you make it brief, please.
I will.
Please.
So when there were discussions about a small number of commercial flights coming in, I remember asking, or someone asking, if those flights were going to be fueled by leaded fuel, and the answer was that they were not. So it seems that we could perhaps increase traffic, with the conversations with civic associations about noise and things like that we perhaps could increase traffic to the airport without increasing the number of flights from planes that use leaded fuel. I am personally a lot more open to that than I'm open to opening it up wide to all aircraft. So I will put that on there. While we do not yet have the technology to fully implement unleaded fuel in planes, I think we do have small planes out there that can do that. Thank you.
Exactly. And Mr. Hernandez. This is the last one.
Yeah, I didn't lead with this, but I have some flight experience from a Cessna 172 to an F-16. But the flight zone that you're asking for, right? For most flight zones, they're circular, right? The flight restricted zone around DC is approximately 30 miles. We sit just outside the 15-mile circumference of DC. So does Langley Air Force Base. Yeah. I think it would be an uphill battle, even if we send this letter up, but fully understand and appreciate the efforts you're making. But I think this might be a safety mechanism that I don't know if it's necessarily outdated given the current threat environment in the world.
Well, when you talk about safety on this stuff, that's a very wide-ranging subject for one thing, and that kind of changes from time to time as to what you think is really a safe thing. If you really thought about it, almost any airplane flying up there today, I mean, since 9/11, one thing that happens on the airplanes you fly on, whether it's Southwest or American or whatever, the cabin door is locked to the pilot and a co-pilot. You can't get in there during the flight. That was not the case prior to 9/11. So these are some of the things that we've tried to do as an industry, not necessarily College Park Airport, but as an industry, to help prevent the kind of thing that happened on 9/11. Airplanes now are changing. Like I said, we have VTOLs, which are vertical takeoff and landing. These are small, lightweight planes, carry about 2 to 4 people, something like that. They're used mostly as taxis, that type of thing. You don't see many of them around here yet, but they're coming, just like robots for everything else. They're coming. So we have to look and see how we can operate these things safely here, and what things need to be changed to allow things like this to be able to happen safely here.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that's going to be 100% safe all the time.
And I think that just making some sort of comments when you come back to just address the why it was put into place and how we've mitigated it up until this point would be greatly appreciated.
All right.
Thank you.
Good idea. Thank you.
Another bullet you can write down is safety. Thank you, Mr. Dorsch. I think you got quite a few up.
There's no more questions?
No, you're lucky.
You sure? You sure?
Go home. Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Please
very much.
keep us in touch, and thank you for your work. Keep us the good work.
And Janine, thank you very much for all of your service.
Absolutely.
You're welcome, Mr. Dorsch.
All right, let's go to the second work session, which is about the follow-up discussion on the draft language to amend City Code, which is Chapter 125, 141, and 110, to prohibit the storage of certain types of furniture in the front yard. And this will be taken by our Public Services Director, Jitinder Coker. Welcome, Mr. Jitinder. Thank you for waiting. And our City Attorney, Stephanie Anderson.
I think you were going to.
Yes. One of them.
I'll go ahead, Mr. Mayor, and take that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this evening we have before you some draft language to address some concerns that were mentioned, follow up from the April 16th council meeting. And I want to start that it is very draft. Meant to elicit good discussion, because in drafting this language and doing some of the research, you can either you can take a very strict approach and name the specific items, or you can go sort of broad, and you might sweep too much in. And I note that that was a concern of some of the council members at the April 16th meeting. So I have attempted maybe a midpoint way of dealing with the issue by using some terms that may need to be defined. And so I'll talk more specific. I dealt with, I amended section 125N to address sort of like the use of furniture for recreational purposes, and then it just kind of is left in on the property. We use the term maybe semi-permanent use, and suggested that that furniture be stored in either an enclosed place or put in the side or backyard behind fencing, but not to be seen from the public right-of-way. Also, in dealing with public services, there was a concern that some of the trash receptors and toters and recyclable vehicles were being used as furniture as well. So I tried to address that issue, and then I amended the proposed language to address fines for those issues. So you have before you specifically on 12510 some language in N. It's shown in caps, and I think you can all read. I didn't know if you have any questions about that particular suggested revision. Yeah. So questions?
Let me see if there is any. I believe District 3 colleagues actually asked for. Mr. Ray, you have started this. Please go ahead.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that we talked about back in April, and kind of at the centerpiece of this was, so for 8 years I've been on council, and for the prior 6 years before that, I was a civic association president in representing Calvary Hills. And one thing we've always struggled with are one very specific piece of furniture, and that is the beer pong table. That has been, it's been problematic, and I know that people who live in the community I know exactly what it is that we're talking about. There is a sizable live and let live contingent, but there's an even more sizable contingent of people who really don't appreciate drinking games next door, and apparatus intended to support drinking games, next door or on their street when they're trying to, encourage their children to have healthier approaches to alcohol than is exhibited by such drinking games. So I had a conversation with the then student liaison and the deputy student liaison and said, hey, I'm thinking of a fairly narrow approach the approach that I would advocate today is a fairly narrow approach towards those items specifically. I've spoken to a number of residents in the neighborhoods that I represent about other recreational items, such as are included in this draft ordinance, and have found a lot of hesitancy to go much broader than sort of accoutrements for drinking games, because there are, as you point out, Ms. Anderson, there are a lot of things that could be swept into that. So as currently written, my kids had a little plastic basketball hoop that they played with in the driveway for a long time, and hypothetically, I know that there's a special provision of the code for a basketball court, but if that's in the front lawn and it's not on the driveway, then maybe that's an issue. Or if my kids had a lacrosse net. My kids don't play lacrosse, but my neighbor does, right? You get the sort of ideas. So those are recreational items that would seem to be perhaps caught up in this, as would cornhole boards as well. So my inclination and recommendation is that we go fairly narrow and we try to just do something about beer pong tables, frankly. I would not want to subsume into that picnic tables. And the way that I was kind of thinking about it was a beer pong table becomes a beer pong table when beer pong is played upon it. I recognize that it can be played upon all sorts of different surfaces, but the moment that you are using it for a drinking game, it becomes a table that is used for a drinking game and therefore cannot be used in the yard. Period. Pretty much end of story. And that would be my preferred approach to this particular matter. I think the toters is exactly right, because we see in Old Town a lot of toters being used as supports for various types of drinking game related items, and that's, you know, problematic from a safety standpoint, because some of those tabletops can be pretty heavy. But it's not the intended purpose, and those are the property of the city of College Park, not that should be used for, and they're items that should be used for their intended purposes. So those are sort of my reflections in preparation for today. I hope that that's helpful. The only other thing I was thinking, and I don't know, we discussed on April 16th the possibility of there's a quirk in the code that permits indoor furniture to be used on a porch, but not anywhere else in the yard. We talked about perhaps looking at that as well. I note that that is not in this copy of the code. I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about that today, or.
I want to make sure that I understand. There was an attempt on, if this is what you're talking about.
Maybe I missed it. I apologize.
Is that addressing the issue?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's still together.
It's section 125.10N, right?
I'm sorry. I'm specifically referring to upholstered furniture being used on porches as a second item, as a second issue.
If I remember correctly, one of the items we talked about that day, Councilmember Riggs, we all supported, and the other one we were, I could be remembering correctly, that we didn't support the upholstery. And now I could be wrong.
Perhaps, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the upholstered furniture, indoor furniture being used, upholstered indoor furniture being used outdoors was something that was brought to me by Public Services as being a consideration, because they frequently find it's infested by rodents and getting grungy and moldy and stuff. So
looks like a car.
The language, proposed language revision actually only allows, it strikes the designation of indoor furniture, because before that was not prohibited. Now it says this section does not prohibit the placement of furniture designed for outdoor use in those areas, and strikes the indoor language.
I see. Okay.
It's in the red folder. If you can see in the
Yeah,
first
I'm
page.
sorry. I wasn't looking at it side by side.
So the language is more general, but it does address what you had raised as far as that part of the discussion was concerned about upholstery item. Because it does say like placement of furniture designed for outdoor use. It's inclusive of every scenario, not just upholstery, but other things. You know, like people have outside yard furniture, that is good for rain, and then it dries out, with a little bit of air, that kind of. So this is like a more general language to address not just that one item, but every item. That word designed for is the key here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I neglected to look at the red folder item next to the item that was in the packet. My error on that. So that is also addressed in the proposal tonight. So okay, then that's kind of what took us here, and those are my inclinations about how to proceed a little bit more narrowly on the recreational furniture item. But I'm very curious to hear what colleagues have to say, of course.
Good. Any, Ms. Anderson, do you have any response to that? Looks like you are in good condition, I mean, in terms of the language, right?
You mean the dealing specifically with addressing the beer pong tables?
Would it be possible to just laser-like focus on eliminating beer pong tables from being utilized in front yards?
Yes, I will come back with some language with that.
Okay, that is the only change. Mr. Adam, please.
Yeah, I think mine will be a follow-up to Councilmember Rigg. I share many of his introductory statements in terms of this is a long-term issue that we're looking to, find balance with. We're not looking to be overly punitive. We're not looking to attack any particular subset of our community. We're looking to create some civility and make sure that our communities are welcoming to all, and we're not seeing behavior that is unbecoming of what we expect in our city. So I'll start with the two easier sections, and then I'll go back to the table item. So I think the indoor furniture is used outdoors. I think that's the language. I am very supportive of that, and I appreciate the explanation where design for really does accommodate, the correct balance of recognizing there is outdoor furniture that is upholstered, there is indoor furniture that's upholstered, but it's really about how it's designed for, and our code enforcement can use their discretion through this, very clear approach to really address this issue that we have. For the refuse toters and recycling containers, I definitely support their proper usage, and note that it appears that there is some additional language about, when they need to be brought back to their storage area. And so I did have, I just wanted to make sure I understand this correctly. Is it reading that on the day of collection, so collection, let's say, happens at between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Where you live, you are required to bring it back on your property by 7:30 p.m. that same day? Is that what I'm reading?
Correct.
But there's a 5-day grace period.
Wait, there's a 5-day grace? I don't know. I don't see that. I guess for me, I would say that maybe a little bit more restrictive than what I would be seeking. I think there are some folks that might not make it home by 7:30 because they stayed home late or they stayed at work late, or they're out of town and they can only coordinate with a neighbor to help by the next morning. I would think it'd be a 24-hour timeline similar to what's done
Mr.
by when you
Adams,
put it.
page 4 has that language of 5 days.
There's a 7.
No, also there's a 5 days in the red folder.
Yeah, I understand there's a 5-day grace period, but it's saying that is the requirement. And so I think we all try to abide by what the language tells us to. And so I'm not one to put a grace period and really rely on that. I'd like to find something that balances what residents can typically do. So I think we can put it out 24 hours before, and I believe taking it back within 24 hours of the refuge being collected is reasonable. And if there's additional 5-day grace period, then so be it. But I think we should put something language that is reasonable for our residents to accommodate.
I'm supportive of that.
Okay. What does
Is
that?
that, but I'd like to hear,
I see some head nodding.
please, if you have any, the 7:30 p.m. taking it back to within the property, right, from the right of way to your property. I'm sure that has a logic to it. Can we talk about that logic? My preference would likely be give 24 hours to bring it back onto your property. But what is the logic of trying to do it within that period that's here in the packet?
Yeah, I believe operationally, the best practices for this thing is like, if a trash is going to be picked up, I want to make sure that I don't, there is as soon as or latest by, I wouldn't put my trash up until 8 p.m. If my trash is going to picked up next early morning around 7, or 8 or something like that. It's not even 24 hours, like people give less time according to many other jurisdictions. That's, what is kind of acceptable. But I think, if you guys feel that from the, fairness point of view, consistency point of view, that you want to increase the range, I don't think we should have any problem with that.
Yeah,
we can bring that flexibility. But I think the other thing is recently I'll give you one example, door notices for trash. We have dealt with that issue recently when the college students went away, But then, I think we have to have restriction, about, how we want to play it. I had discussions with my supervisors and even with the manager, and I was of the view that we shouldn't give the door hangers. But when I went back to my supervisors, I asked them, oh, how this happened? They said, they didn't name any one of you, but they said there were some previous council members who had asked, give that some leverage to the people so that they can make it work. Because at some point of time, there were multiple property owner who may be managing property around the metropolitan area, and they had one truck to pick up their own trash and things like that from their multifamily rented properties. And for that, the door hangers really worked very well. But majority of the things that what we have observed, I think it's redundant and it makes the process less efficient. And I'm just saying that from analogy point of view. But if you guys feel as a governing body that we need to make it to 24 hours, I think that should be doable by us.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, I think you have 24 hours prior to pickup, you can put it out. And then it's saying, put it back on your property by 7:30 the day of collection. I would either change that instead of 7:30 within 24 hours of collection, or if we feel that a definitive time, if it's 7:30 a.m. the following day, I think that would be reasonable. And then I feel that a 5-day to correct the violation is way too long. To me, I would think 1 or 2 days should be sufficient to correct that violation, because if you're leaving your trash or your toters out, it's just unbecoming of, what we're looking for in our neighborhoods. And I would not welcome to see that for 6-7 days out there.
Then it's trash time again.
Yeah, then it's trash time again. So I would, frankly, I would probably say 1 day to correct it, but if it's 2, that would, I could see that being somewhat reasonable.
So what does the council think? So there are two minor changes Mr. Adams is suggesting,
If I
right?
could ask, so could you, and if I
Please
could
go
may,
ahead. Yeah.
on the, to take it back in, for your purpose of your duties within the city, is it better to have a definitive time, or is it okay to say within 24 hours?
I think definitive time would be preferable.
Okay.
But even if the range is there, we can still, I'm just trying to facilitate the enforcement piece of it. How consistently my, code enforcement officers implement that. If we have a time, that'll be better, because that'll be clear in their mind so that they can implement it and, move to the further stage if some violator is not correcting it.
Okay, so, but Mayor, back to you on so I think one of the scenarios is what I'm kind of suggesting based on this conversation is 7:30 a.m. the day after
the
collection. And I would also encourage the time to correct the violation, I would say 2 days instead of 5.
48 hours.
Yeah, 48 hours.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to go back to the grace period, because I agree, I don't want to see someone's toter out for a week necessarily. But what if there's an individual who's on vacation? They put their trash out before leaving and didn't bring it back in. I don't want to punish someone necessarily for that. I do think that someone who makes a habit of leaving their toters out for an extended period of time is a concern, but want to generate some more conversation about the grace period. I do agree with changing the 24-hour period to put it back. That makes sense, because people may not be able to be back by a certain time. But do others have any other thoughts about 48 hours versus 5 days?
Let me hear, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. May I remind folks that there aren't any code enforcement officers around to enforce this at 7:30 p.m. So maybe on the weekends, but however, I do support what Mr. Adams was saying about having it at 7:30 in the morning. The following day is good enough. And if I may finish, while we're addressing things in the front yard, I'm wondering if we may add trampolines to that. Having a trampoline 24/7 in your in the neighbor's yard. I've had complaints about that in the past.
Okay, let's focus on, let's go one at a time. So let's think about.
Mr. Mayor, could I finish? Because I didn't
Oh, you
finish
haven't
my
finished.
comment
Please go ahead.
before.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Mr. Kokar, I wanted to ask, how often do we have violations that require a citation of leaving toters out beyond the 5 days?
I did not
do we
quite
have-
understand your question. ma'am.
Do we have a number of violations that are associated with toters being left out beyond the grace period?
Yeah, it's just, there is I think I observed recently, when the students were moving out of completing their session. In other times, that's rather a rare occasion rather than a regular occurrence. It just happens, when students moving in or out, if the education, effort may not have been fully done to the extent that we should do, that kind of thing.
All right.
Sequencer, if that's okay.
So about the two proposals you're making. Should we continue?
I have other questions.
Let's go one at a time. How about that?
I think the body understands the two proposals I have. I think if we just keep on the dialogue on other changes, and maybe we can come back to that in a more definitive. It's up to you, whatever you.
I think if we can go one at a time, because those other items are not quite related. They're
True, I agree with that.
Is that okay with you? So the proposal is to have a definitive time, like 7:30 a.m. pickup time. Day after the pickup, and right now it's 7:30 p.m., but Mr. Adams' suggestion is to change it to 7:30 a.m. in the following day, and also give a 48 hours grace period instead of 60 hours, 60 or more actually, 5 days. So there are two changes. Is there any opposition to that? Let's ask this question. Mr. Hernandez, you don't like it?
Oh, well, no, Councilmember Whitney raised her hand first.
Let's go ahead.
Yes, in answer to that precise question, yes. I have opposition to the 2 days. I'm in agreement that I think about the scenario in which someone is going on vacation, they have a bin full of stinky trash that's on their property, and they're like, well, I'm going on vacation. I don't want to put this out because I can't bring it back in, and I'll get cited for that. And so they just leave the garbage on the property instead. I think that could be a problematic outcome. It sounds like it's not typically a huge problem that people are leaving it out. So, but I'm fine with the 7:30 a.m.
Okay, let's go to the 7:30 a.m. change. Looks like we are all in agreement.
I'm okay with the 5
Okay.
5 days.
And sorry, on the 7:30 a.m.
I concur with Councilman Adams with 7:30 a.m. and a 48-hour notice. Maybe it's different neighborhoods, but I know in our community, there are people who've left their toter out there for days, and no violation was routinely for days. And I'm stopping my car and I'm pulling their toter back into your yard. So, I mean, let's be adult about it. I've gone out of town and it was on a Monday. I have emailed Public Works, could you kindly pull my toter or get my neighbor to pull my toter back in after the trash has been picked up? Because I don't want it to be out there for the whole week. I think rightfully so, it is reasonable it's reasonable to ask for 48 hours. Beyond that, people are gonna come back and keep pushing the envelope to push another day after that and another day after that. And it'll be the next trash recycle pickup that week. So, 48 hours.
Okay, so Ms. Anderson, so looks like the council is in agreement on first item, which is 7:30 a.m. pickup in the following day. Let's go to the second one. Can I get a straw poll maybe, and that way we know where we are.
Perhaps
48 hours grace period.
Yeah, perhaps we can wait on Alan, but I mean, if you want to just.
We can come back. We can come back to him.
Okay, well, I would say the 5 days.
So let's stay.
And if any, just one of the things I haven't gotten a comment on this, but like if there is one of your neighbors who routinely does it, that is why we pay so much money for the Civic app, right? The College Park Connect app, for you to be able to take a picture and then inform code enforcement to come out and address the concern. No, you can't do that?
If you have a 5-day grace period, you can't get a violation.
Well, no, but you guys are saying that it's too much, that like at 5 days, that they're just gonna continue going on to 6 days and 7 days. Take a picture and like submit the complaint. Like, that's what I'm saying.
All right, so it looks like you're in opposition. Mr. Hill?
Well, I'm in support of the 5 days.
5 days is the existing one, right? So you're not in favor of the change, basically, on the 5 days thing. Mr. Hill? Are we in agreement of 48 hours change from grace period change, which is currently is set at 5 days?
48?
Yeah?
Or 5, 48 or 5.
I mean, I've had residents ask me to bring in their trash cans when they've gone on vacation more than one time. You know, there was a house where one of my neighbors passed away, and their family was driving in from Fredericksburg, Virginia, to deal with, you know, the estate, and they would leave their trash out and say, hey, you know, we're not going to be here the next day to bring in the trash cans. You mind bringing it in for me? You know, I've never had somebody like just leave it out there while they're on vacation. You know, I've had students move out and leave stinky trash in their trash, and they move out, and I've taken it out for them. But you know, I don't think I think 5 days is ridiculous.
Okay, so you're in favor of 48 hours. So I've got one. Mr. Hernandez, did you say yes or no? I mean, either or.
I said 5 days. I feel like the question could be simple, 5 or 2 days.
5 or 2 days, okay. So 5 days is the current code, and the 2 days is the proposed. Dr. Esters, I think you're in opposition, right?
5 days.
Yeah, 5 days, okay. And Ms. Whitney?
5 days.
Okay. And 2, got one more. Mr. Adams is 1.
2, and if I could comment, if you can move it, if you can put it out 24 hours in advance, you can put it back the day after it pick up, and then you have 5-day grace period. You can just leave it on the curb all the time. I mean, I don't understand why, you know, I put in trash all the time for my neighbors. Miss Hakes over there has pulled in my trash a half dozen times. You know, it's a neighborly thing that you do, but there's some chronic violators that go out there and they just don't bring their trash in. And we're just trying to create a way for our public safety team to have a violation so that they know, hey, this is not acceptable. Please change your behavior. So I definitely 2 days.
Good. Mr. Sorry. We're going to go to Mr. Ray.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Reagan.
I think he's a
2.
2, okay. So we've got 5 words.
Just a question for clarification. For, I'm trying to think this through. The rental properties, I'm trying to think about those properties where the kids have left and the trash is out. What happens then? If it's out longer, the property owner is fined?
I can tell you what happens now.
Oh, good, please.
Do you want me to tell you what happens
Sure.
now? What happens now is, in most cases, they just leave it out there, and public service cites them once or twice, and eventually the landlord comes and pulls them back. If you drive down a street in Old Town during move-out, you'll see just kind of piles sitting out there for as much as a week at a time.
Right, yeah.
And there's some chronic violators, like there's one at Baltimore Avenue and Beechwood that always pull their toters out to the street where it's narrow. So, and they'll sit out there for 5 or 6 days at a time and cause a little bit of a traffic hazard. So those are my own observations.
No, thank you.
Usually, I mean, the more reputable landlords coordinate closely with their residents around this, but unfortunately, you know, our city is not full of universally reputable landlords.
Correct.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Thankfully, we're done with that change. So it looks like the council, the vote of 5 to 3, and they're in favor of that change. 2 days. To 2 days from 5 days grace period. Yeah. All right. Move ahead. You have a few more items.
I'll make as quick as I can, and this is a follow-up to Mayor Pro Tem's. I believe the violation should be to the property owner if possible, and in their lease, they can convey that to the renters or lessees as appropriate. But I think the property owner should be the one to be violated if that is reasonable for the city to do that and allowable for the city to do that.
So, you know, legally, we are supposed to, you know, cite the property owner, but I think the lease could be written in a manner that that responsibility could be transferred to the tenant. And that's something that it should be very clear and open between the two parties, tenants and the property owner.
Great, so maybe it's written property owner, but the property owner in the lease can just, convey it to the renters as possible, but.
Yeah, we are not privy to what's written in the lease, but that provision is there for property owners to pass on that responsibility to the tenant.
Great.
Yeah, it is the agreement is between them.
Okay.
Landlord and tenant.
Yep, great. I just note that what I'm reading here, it said the property owner, renter, or leasee, and I understand the intent of that. I just wanted to make sure to clarify that I believe it should be the property owner, and using typical conveyance, it can go to the renter. So, sounds like we're in general consensus there. I wanted to move back to the furniture item. And so, the way the language is, it shall be unlawful to store items designed or used for recreational purposes as semi-permanent fixtures in the front or side yards and visible from the street by pedestrians or those in vehicles. Can we define store? Does store mean temporary usage? Does it mean active usage? How are we defining what that term means? Because when I hear store, it means like it's there, but I might not be around. I'm storing it there.
Mr. Adams, may I?
Please go ahead.
I wonder if we could narrow that down quite a bit and just eliminate the availability for the tables used for drinking contests to be used in the front yard, period, end of story, and just sort of take the store recreational items issue off the table is my proposal, not discuss it as part of this ordinance change.
Sorry, can you restate that again?
Sure. So we would my proposal is to substantially narrow this part of the proposal and have it focus just on the elimination of tables used for drinking games in the front yard of a residence, period. So neither use nor storage of those particular items, and all of I have no interest at this time personally, though I'm willing to, obviously I'm one of 8, to consider storage of other recreational amenities such as is in the current draft, but that's not a path that I'm interested in at this point.
Yeah, understood. And I think with that we can define what items means, but I still have a question on what the term store means, because it seems like it still needs to be defined and understood in the context of a table used for drinking games. But I think the body might have, as Councilman Riga and I have done pretty extensive outreach on this to try to understand different viewpoints. I think there are some conflicting on storage, like it just remains there overnight, it's there for days, and then there's active usage. And so the way this is currently described, is this storing and you're not actively using, or is it inclusive of active usage as well?
So, storing or the word store is subject to interpretation, but for a layman, storing means if you got a table in the front yard and there are beers or anything, so to store that item away would be not only to remove the top pieces on it, whatever that may be, used, empty, glasses or whatever, but also take the table to the backyard and store it where it needs to be stored. That is exactly how a code enforcement officer would interpret it. Or no different than like for these recyclable, toters and other, solid waste or any kind of cans that people use. Once the word store that means you may have brought it to the front of the driveway where the road curb and gutter is. You take it back and you store it either in the side yard, hidden from public view, or in your backyard, wherever you have made a place for it.
So store is not inclusive of active usage. If I have a table and I put it out in my front yard and I'm with 5 people around it, is it considered stored in my front yard? Yes or no?
Again,
may I interrupt?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important. The intent when I drafted was that it says store as semi-permanent fixtures. So you're kind of letting it just remain on the property. Not.
Okay, so
So
I
it's,
think
it's
we're
kind of, it's like semi-permanent, because permanent would mean maybe it's affixed to the property, but you're just kind of, it's just there all the time.
okay. And I actually am supportive of that language. I appreciate that language, and I think that's the language I would support, is that storage and it's semi-permanent. And then I would encourage change to the term items to be table or, some sort of,
It's a beer pong table.
can we actually say that term, beer pong or anything like that?
That's what Mr. Rigg wants to.
I would suggest a table or other surface used for drinking games.
To make it more generalized right now.
I thought we don't have full regulation on alcohol, so,
We're regulating the furniture.
okay, so we're regulating the furniture there, okay. The other thing I just wanted to point out, is I believe right now it needs to be stored, I guess, long-term storage, in entirely enclosed structures or behind fencing in interior side yard and rear yard setback areas. So a covered porch right now would be similarly considered as a front yard. Is that a fair interpretation of how this is currently written? So right now it says at the end of this, the items specified in this section shall only be stored within entirely enclosed structures or behind fencing in interior side yard and rear yard setback areas. So the way I interpret that is that it cannot be stored or semi-permanently stored on a front porch that is not fully enclosed. Is that, I think that's correct interpretation of how it's read, I read it.
I think so.
I would agree, because it's not supposed to be visible from the public right-of-way, even when placed in a permitted area.
Understood. So I think I would entertain some discussion points of whether or not, if it's in an enclosed porch, I mean, we got to find some balance here, and I think this is heading us in the right direction. But I think as other colleagues have a chance to, I've hogged the mic for a minute, I will defer to y'all in one moment here. But I think I would be open to entertain, should that also allow storage in a covered porch or something like that? Thank you.
All right, any comments on that? I see two hands, Dr. Estes first and Mr. Hernandez.
Not what Councilmember Adams was talking about specifically, but I do have a question about how we're defining drinking games. The reason why I ask is because as I continue to hear this, I'm thinking of people who have guests over, and they're sitting at a table that's outside. They're drinking and they're playing cards. Is that going to be impacted by this? I am by no means trying to be a contrarian, and I understand the concern about beer pong. Gotcha. Understand it's an issue. And, but I do want to think about how this is going to impact others.
So,
So
what you're saying, the language could be interpreted as people drinking and playing games.
And because of what I do on a daily basis, I could see a student saying, well, these people over at this house, they were out playing cards and drinking. How is that different from what we're doing?
Yeah. Mr. Rigg, time to explain.
If I may, I mean, it's important to bear in mind that most code enforcement is complaint-based. So I suppose the question is there somebody that's going to complain about their neighbor, playing bridge and having a drink? Maybe there is, and if so, I think they would be, to be honest with you. It may be impossible to address all the fringe cases, but that's also the front porch. I'm inclined to think that a lot of people who want to have bridge and a drink would probably not do it like in their front yard, but maybe they would, I don't know.
Well, I would say I would agree that many people may sit out on their back porch, but they may sit on their front porch. They may have, I know of homes that only have space to have tables out in the front. So I just wanted us to be mindful of that.
By the way, to our student liaison, we're doing work session because you're new. Just the reason I'm telling you. If you want to speak on any of this item discussion we're having, and you may think that it might be impacting the student community, you can actually participate. You just raise your hand. I'll entertain it. Please go ahead. Yeah, Ms. Whitney.
Perhaps we could overtly define drinking game within the ordinance. I just Googled drinking game, and it says Drinking games, a game or contest involving the consumption of alcoholic drinks, typically as a penalty or in response to a specified cue or prompt, which would perhaps get us around people drinking at the same time as playing bridge
So
or
drinking game
something
is
along.
not drinking and
Can I
playing
ask
games.
for a point of clarification? I thought we were getting to the issue of the furniture used for the game, as opposed to you're having entertainment and you're sitting at the table. So, I mean, it's a nuance, but I'm not sure.
But it's still the use of a table. They would still be using a table to do this. I guess I'm thinking of.
But
you
it's
know,
not being used for the purpose of using it for the purpose of the game. You're kind of using the furniture and you're sitting around, but you're not. I think we're trying to get to the issue where the table is part of the game.
Okay.
If you're using it as a beer pong table, I don't know much about it, but I Googled it when I was doing the research. I think there's a distinction. I want to say that if you define it too narrowly, we could have issues with enforcement. If we define it too broad, we're going to sweep unintended consequences in. So I just want us to make sure that we try to address the problem we're trying to get at.
Can you give an example in the code for in parentheses, like for example, beer pong table or that kind of stuff?
Can you repeat?
Just to have more specific use of it in the language.
Well, I mean, I do have some language, and it comes from, this was, and as I was listening to the discussion, I was trying to determine if I could use any of this. There, in researching sort of like student conduct requirements, it specifically says that students are not allowed to construct or own a table used for the purpose of alcohol-related games, including but not limited to beer pong, flip cup,
There you
card games, quarters, etc. So it's possible if we
There you go.
could kind of use that kind of definition and provide illustrations that give some intent
acceptable?
in the legislation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Looks like we are coming to an agreement. It's great. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
So I came into this not having that much of an opinion on it, but does it feel like we're doing a little much from the dais here to a little overreaching into people's yards? Like, we're not an HOA. I know I had that conversation at one point with Councilmember Riggs, and I think like a lot of the questions that have been brought up are specifically threading the idea that we're targeting a specific type of behavior, right? And I've never been shy to call it what it is. I think we're looking at what happens during the school year when the UMD students are here and their behavior regarding drinking games is front and center, causing, not acrimony, but definitely not harmony within the neighborhoods. I'm just putting it out there because, fortunately, we have not experienced too much of this, in the areas that Alan and I represent. But I understand where those concerns would be on my colleagues' districts. I would ask, though, if we're going to do any sort of action on this, that we wait until the school year, when the students have their opportunity to be back and engaged in this sort of civic discourse. I'm looking over at the student liaisons who are here to speak on behalf of the students. I mean, this policy, right, pretty insignificant to what I personally care about, but it is a targeted policy to curb a behavior of a particular group of people, right? So that's where I kind of just feel uneasy. I will say that I talked to some students before, and yes, they're involved with sororities and fraternities, but they brought up a whole bunch of points on infringing of civil liberties, which, I mean, a piece of it is a little bit concerning, and I don't want to go as far as saying that, because I think we're just trying to help improve the neighborhoods that we live in. But, I mean, I think they have a right to say their piece on this too. While they're not, like, passing something that obviously is going to target folks during this particular, target those folks who aren't here, I don't know if that's something that sits well with me. So I'd turn it over to the
Thank you.
Yep, student liaisons. No, thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Hill, do you want to speak? If you want. Okay, after Mr. Hill. How about that?
I did.
After him. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, no, I did have I have student housing in my neighborhood, and I've had probably 2 or 3 houses back, or rental, group of renters back, start building a beer pong table in the front yard. And I asked them to look around the neighborhood and ask yourself, does this seem like a good idea? Does this seem like acceptable behavior in this neighborhood? Is this an acceptable behavior in a neighborhood you grew up in? If you were living next to your parents, and would you be doing this in your neighborhood? And they're like, no. And he says, well, what should we do? He says, you can do it in the backyard. And they picked up the table and moved it to the backyard, and it's still there.
Yeah.
So I get it. Now, my other gripe is trampolines. So
Let's come to that. Let's come to that.
let's include that.
Miss Art, please. What do you think?
I do think that, like, the private property rights and infringing on civil liberties is an important note, but it's also very important that students get along with the broader community of College Park, and this may help that, although we shouldn't go overboard, but I think certainly it may assist in that.
Thank you. Councilman Mackey and Mr. Rigg, I know it will be helpful to.
Should I let you go?
No,
before
no,
you- I just wanted to say
Ms. Mackey,
quickly, I
please.
said, we're asking for the beer pong tables in the front yard not to be. We're not saying you can't do,
It can be
correct?
used by the restaurant.
Right,
even,
so
right?
we're saying that they can do beer pong if they want to in their backyard. That's their choice. They can have a party as long as they, follow city regulations. But for a person who, we have had beer pong tables in College Park Woods in the front yard, it was very inconsiderate of the neighbors. And it was just very rude, just, that they were playing beer pong until all hours in their front yard. And then people are driving by and looking at them playing beer pong, and it's very unsafe. So I think that taking beer pong tables out of front yards is a good thing for us to do in the city.
Thank you. Good to hear. Mr. Rigg.
I don't like taking a second bite, but I think I will in this case. Just a couple things that are important for the record is that we began this discussion back in April when our students were present, and we began this discussion actually before it was even discussed. For the first time, I had a long conversation with the then student liaison and the deputy student liaison, who reflected very much what you said, which is, look, this is a pain point between, student residents and non-student residents, and the simple elimination of a beer pong table in a front yard, not saying you can't use it in the backyard or elsewhere, or other items, seemed like a reasonable step to them. So that's important. I hear Mr. Hernandez's concern about doing this during the summer. It's sort of coincidental, that it's following during the summer. It has been vetted. The other thing that I've neglected to mention when I started this conversation was, for years what I've been doing is exactly what Mr. Hughes said, and that is knocking on doors, because I represent a lot of students in the neighborhoods that I represent, and I try to strike the right balance. But that doesn't always work. Like, diplomacy doesn't always work. I've knocked on doors and and people have told me to get off their property, and they want to do what they want with their beer pong table. And I gotta say, like, there's a lot of, and even student residents don't particularly like them sometimes. It's not just non-student residents here. So that's why I was beginning this conversation as a very narrowly targeted sort of attempt. We've talked about a couple of other things, but that's why I'm sort of laser focused on beer pong tables use in the front yard.
Good. All right. Looks like there is a general consensus, there general support for prohibiting beer pong table in the front yard. I mean, looks like I don't want to take a straw poll. Ms. Redney, do you have something else? I'm coming. Okay.
Sorry, I just want to be clear that the language, because it read to me like the language was saying they couldn't be stored in the front yard, not used in the front yard. Am I misinterpreting that?
I think we're talking about a different language now. We're work sessioning what would replace what's in there now.
Okay, so we
It's a
are
new
definitely
language,
talking
not
about
this one.
not actively using it in the front yard, nor storing it. Yeah, that is your preference. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's cool. I just want to make sure I was on the same page there. Thank you.
All right. John, Mr. Fahmy.
Yeah, it sounds like we're coming to a conclusion on this topic, so I don't want to drag it on too far, but I just wanted to say that, I mean, I personally don't have much at stake in this thing, but like Mr. Hernandez said, I think that for those students who do, that are mostly away at home now for summer break, I think we need to make sure that they're getting their say in if it's something that matters to them. So, you know, I don't have a particular opinion on this topic, but I just wanted to say I think it's important to,
I think probably we'll end up having the public hearing when the students will be back, because the staff need more time in preparing it on the iteration and bringing it back to us. And probably staff can always schedule it, right? So we can accommodate Mr. Hernandez's request. Thank you. What are we at now? Do you have more items?
Yes, we do.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, did you want to talk about trampolines and and or furniture, indoor furniture being used outdoors? Those are the two other.
Okay, let's
big
do
topics.
indoor used by outdoor. What do you think? What does the council think about that? Because that's in the agenda packet. Sydney?
I have a problem with that. I feel like that gets into a pretty fuzzy line as far as like what is specifically indoor furniture, what is outdoor furniture. You know, I personally have a vintage table and chairs that are on my front porch, which is covered sometimes, not covered sometimes, which we have upholstered in outdoor fabric. And it's all glass and powder coated, so it is now turned into something that I would interpret as appropriate for the outdoors, but it certainly wasn't manufactured by anyone as such. I would hope there might be a way that we could craft language that says that if, you know, furniture is stored outside and is obviously in ill repair, you know, which apparently is the situation that leads to infestation, or if there are situations of infestation, then action can be taken. But I feel like it's getting into mildly elitist territory to just say no indoor furniture outside on the front porch, on a covered front porch. That's just how I feel about it.
Ms. Anderson, I saw you smiling.
I wanted to make sure I understood. Are you saying about on a covered porch? Or because there's specifications for furniture that's used for indoor and furniture used for outdoor. So are you talking about that it would be covered but not indoor furniture outside that's not covered? Are we in agreement that that's not
I'm okay with no indoor furniture outside that's uncovered.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other concerns about that, Mr. Adams?
I think since Councilmember Riggs not here, I think there remains a concern with some, say, upholstered couches or something that are on porches that are covered, but they are definitely not suited for a humidity or pest environment where pests could easily access them. And so I think we're seeking a balance to try to find language that address those, but also reflects what Councilmember Whitney said. Did it?
Ms. Anderson, is it possible using your magic language? Ms. Anderson.
Could we add language in turn, I mean, I don't want to get overly specific. Could we say that's, well, you know, humidity, right? Pests, all those insects, all those type of things are what we're also trying to avoid from, you know, accumulating on that indoor furniture outdoors. So, and it can occur when something's covered, right? It doesn't, the elements still impact it.
I mean, drafting language, I guess the issue, trying to get to the issue you're concerned about, because typically speaking, you wouldn't want indoor furniture outside, uncovered. I mean, it's not designed for that, so the concerns you have about weather, mildew, pest, it's gonna happen. It's not specified for outside use, so it gets tricky in terms of trying to define how we're gonna say what furniture. It's easier to say if the manufacturer says it's supposed to be designed for outdoor, then we're good. If it's indoor, it's indoor.
Mr. Young.
Mayor, can I get a motion to extend the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Motion to extend.
Second.
It's 10:30, isn't it?
It's not 10:30, I apologize.
Yeah, I know this item is going too long.
If I feel like it is, and I think
And I
Councilmember
just
Riggs
wanted
said
to
that
add,
he
I've done like a lot of research, and they have defined it really with like manufacturer specifications for being outdoor furniture.
Yeah.
That's how a
Let
lot
me-
of jurisdictions
give
handle it.
Let me give a proposal. How about staff can come back with more research after that?
I support what staff put in here in terms of design. I just also recognize what Councilmember Whitney was saying, that, you know, there is this context of if it's covered on a porch, but it's not designed for outdoor use, like we're in that kind of no man's area right there where we still have the problem, and trying to find a balance there is very difficult. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
So can I add some more information to it? I think in like indoor or outdoor furniture, and manufacturer specifies it. If you have a front porch and it's not like, there's a weather impact to it, even if you have a roof over it and breeze is flowing through, it'll still, to me, it is exposed to weather. So again, the thing that is the defining thing is the manufacturer's use instruction. We do it for equipment all the times, but for this is like a usable item within a household for the use of the inhabitants. And I think that is how anybody is going to interpret or look at it.
Yeah, so our concerns about your staff, your code enforcement staff, we want to guide them with the language so that we don't make their life difficult. So
Yeah,
they can
I
use
don't think you want to make it more specific, or you're trying to put some sort of exemptions in there.
Right.
You guys can, if you choose, as a governing council, that you want to do that. But I think from interpretation and enforcement point of view, that is how a person is going to look at it. That is how people in the court system are going to look at it. Indoor, outdoor furniture, that's how they're going to define it and look at it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hernandez, you said-
Could is it possible just to leave it to your discretion? Was that something we want to do? As a council, to leave it to your discretion whether the furniture, I don't know, looks. Go ahead, Councilmember Riggs.
I was going to say it's always left to the enforcement
always
discretion,
like
right? Like the CEOs make determinations all the time about whether it appears to be indoor
Based
or
on the
outdoor
language,
furniture and appropriate or not.
But I would just add, discretion needs to be applied even-handedly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't want to have a position where, for some code enforcement officers, they're okay with it, for others, they're not.
Yeah.
So we need to give specific guidance.
Yeah, the languages help in that case, yeah. All right, Mr. Adams, looks like you are okay with what is in the language, but you also wanted to have a little bit more specificity on the furniture sitting at the porch, but covered porch, that kind of stuff, right?
I might have misunderstood Councilmember Whitney's statement, but I
Okay.
thought she was saying that it's advocating it potentially for some indoor furniture to be allowed on covered porches. And I was just noting that in some occasions, that can have some of the issues that we're speaking to. And trying to find a balance there, which is very difficult, and I don't know what the answer to that. I was just acknowledging that.
Okay.
But I'm comfortable with what the city staff is putting forward, but I also do recognize Councilmember Whitney's statement, and I understand that as well.
Okay. Ms. Anderson, can you do a little bit more research? You heard us, right? I mean,
Yes, I have, and based on what I've heard, I can put together some language and then
Good.
determine, if it would be enforceable.
thank you. That's very helpful. Dr. Esters.
I was just going to suggest that maybe we help to define some of the furniture that is indeed problematic. Using an example of an upholstered couch that is outside is very different than what Councilmember Whitney talked about as far as a glass table. So maybe adding some clearer definition could be helpful.
You can always give an example. Good. What else is left? Trampoline, right? Yeah. Go ahead, explain your case.
Yeah, I would like to see if we can add the storage of trampolines in the front yard to this. I don't have, if it's a party and they want to have a bounce house or something like that, that's fine, But I wouldn't want that bounce house there 24/7 every day. So same thing like with a trampoline, it's fine if they're having a party and it's in the front yard, but then in long-term storage or usage, whatever, should be in the backyard.
What does the council think?
So I've had a number of
Mr. Ray,
complaints
starting
about that.
from you, what do you think about? Okay, Ms. Mackey?
I would just like to ask that our lawyer give us a lot of information on this, because I know that there are, I think there are trampolines. I mean, my kids are old now, but I thought you had to have it in the backyard for your homeowner's insurance. They wanted it in a fenced place, but I might be wrong about that, and I could very well be wrong, but I think it's important that we know, like, different rules. I think the county might even have rules on trampolines, so if we could have that information, I don't want to make any kind of decision on that, because I don't have enough information. Thank you.
Good. Mayor Pro Tem, Denise?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that trampolines should be in the backyard. I mean, for public safety reasons, no trampolines should be in the front at all. And it's too many instances in District 4 in the woods where the kids have the trampoline to the street, almost. And so that is very problematic. So I would just prefer to have them in the backyard.
Fantastic. And looks like, Ms. Whitney, you're okay with it? Adding, again, Dr. Esther, okay?
I don't have any.
Any objection? All right.
I again think this is a significant overreach from council to tell people whether or not they can have a trampoline in front of their house. I'm sorry if that's like
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's
minority agreement, but like
That's okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like the majority supports it, so let's add that to the draft language and we'll come back. And looks like there will be another work session to finalize the language, and then we can schedule the public hearing. And if you could do it when the students are back, that was a request. I think that should be possible. All right. Had a long conversation, but thankfully it's over. All right. We are halfway to the work session item, so we have two other. So thank you, Ms. Barber, for patiently waiting. This will be about the setting up the parameters guidelines for the city's emergency assistance fund.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Always a pleasure. Thank you for allowing the opportunity to discuss what we've been doing as staff, and we'd love to have your review and comment on how the emergency grant funds have been administered by staff to residents in need since this funding was approved first back in April of 2023 as COVID and ARPA funds. People's applications were moving away from having to do with the COVID pandemic. The council approved, just for a little review, $50,000, which was expended for residents between April and June of 2023 at the end of fiscal year 23, and then a total of another $100,000 that was in fiscal year 24, $50,000 for the first 6 months, and an additional $50,000 was approved by council in December 2023. A shift happened. A staff person was hired, a part-time person who started assisting with the review and recommendations on the grant. That began in January. Prior to that, applications were going directly to the finance department. They were being reviewed, data collected, and a recommendation was reviewed and then made by myself, someone from finance, and the city manager maintained the final review of all grants and approval of all grants. I've included the updated application with the report, as well as a little bit of information since the latest approval of $50,000 of how those grants have been awarded. There were 14 that were awarded since December 2023 when the council approved an additional $50,000. There was not the full $50,000 that was expended during that time. $35,000 was the amount of the grants. Of the applicants, I wanted to put in some highlights. All of the applicants had bills that were in arrears, facing eviction, utilities being shut off, or an evidence of an imminent risk of a loss of housing, utilities, or vital medication that was needed. I've reviewed the guidelines and would love to have some feedback from council on the application as it is presented, as well as some items such as how often a resident could apply for the grant, as well if there's any special considerations that should be made for who can apply for the grant, such as an elected official, whether it be local, county, or state. And also any questions that you might have about the process as it's been going.
Thank you for your work. Let's see, Dr. Esters.
Yes, Ms. Barber, thank you for your work. I had some thoughts about the number of times that a person or a household, and specifically I was thinking household, could apply for funds, and I believe it should be once annually in order to allow others to be able to partake in the funds, and hopefully a household wouldn't have to apply frequently. As far as elected officials, I do not feel that this should be open to elected officials at all. So just wanted to share those two thoughts.
Good. Ms. Mackey.
And I do thank you so much for your work. This is really well done. And I just was wondering, and it might not be appropriate, and I guess our lawyer would need to tell us whether it would be appropriate to know if the individual was getting like WIC and SNAP, or Medicaid. Is it on there and I missed it? Okay, okay, so I just think that's really important. And another thing that I think is important is, you know, are they receiving any aid from a church or an organization like the Rotary Club or something like that? Just so that you know, of course, you know, they don't have to tell us. I mean, of course, you know, that's just the nature of it, but I think that helps in the process. And I'm sorry I missed that before. I don't know how I missed that. So, yes, I think that you've done a great job on this form, and I applaud you for the work that you've done. And I also agree with my colleague about, I don't feel that more than a year, it gives others an opportunity to ask for aid. And I know that as an elected official, I would not want to, I don't think that we should be asking for aid. Thank you.
It's actually, the question was in the, I'm reading from a staff packet, whether grant applications from households of elected officials, not households.
Thank you for that clarification.
So if someone, a member, immediate family member applies, what Ms. Mackey you're suggesting, that shouldn't be accepted?
I didn't understand it, how it would be. I know that as elected officials ourselves, we shouldn't do that. I'm sorry. As elected officials, we shouldn't, because we're involved in the actual giving of the money. So that was why I said, I agree with you.
Okay.
If I might offer a little bit more insight into the question and guidance that staff has been looking for this. If it is household. We actually did research on other assistance programs. County has emergency assistance for eviction, rental, utilities, as well as the state. In each of those instances, which is reflected on the application, all sources of income in the household are required for reporting. When individuals do sign off on the applications, like you were saying, they don't have to disclose, but we are asking them to disclose and to sign an affidavit saying that the information that they've provided is accurate. So it would be, for that question, it would be the household of someone. So any income in the household is subject to review to see what is the need. If there is a bill that is needing to be paid, all sources of income that individual may have access to pay that debt is part of the review process.
Yeah, thank you. Now that's very helpful, and that makes sense because it's the family, the entire body, the people who live in this house. They actually take care of all the expenses, most likely. But I'm looking at the form. It's maybe I'm not reading it correctly. Do you actually expect that figures to come from the applicants, like the total income? I do not see any. I only see the mortgage amount and rent payment.
On page 130.
The question is there about
Okay,
income.
Okay, after that, okay. I missed that. Okay, okay.
And I would also add that this is we really use the application because prior to now, as ARPA was being phased out and the emergency grant was the only form of assistance that the city is now offering, this was application that was essentially approved by the ARPA consultants, and we pulled it over with some modifications where we took out the requirement for it being COVID.
That's very helpful. I was actually going to ask that. So someone was asking for emergency fund, these funds, and I gave the link to the ARPA funds, and there is a teeny small note that says that if you are applying for emergency, you need to cross this checkbox. Is it possible to have a separate form so that we don't have, because ARPA is gone, right? It will be
Right.
gone by the end of
We've
this year.
updated it, Mr. Mayor.
You already have? it?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
fantastic.
So now the little teeny box is
Okay.
gone, and this is the only application that
Right.
is available on the
Thank you.
website.
That's very helpful. All right, Dr. Estes? No, Ms. Whitney, okay.
I was just going to voice my opinion about once a year being acceptable to me, and households of elected officials not being eligible. I'm comfortable with that. I also like the idea of kind of separating the funds into two tranches, the first of the year and the second half of the year, half of the funds the first of the year, half of the funds the second, to ensure that their funds don't run out by the end of the year. I like that idea. I also appreciate the fact that you excluded credit card debt or City of College Park property taxes or other city bills or obligations, that you excluded that as items that could be covered. I'm comfortable with basically what you've put forward, and I appreciate all the work that you've done getting us to this point. Thank you.
Can I ask a
All right.
clarification real quick?
Mr. Young.
You're okay with us rolling over funds that are unspent from the first half of the year into the second half of the year, correct?
Yes, I'm okay with that as well.
Rolling over. All right, Mr. Regan, then Mayor Protem. Sorry, it's my error.
I was just going to add my note of support to what's proposed, and also my appreciation for really developing a robust program. My only question is about enforcement mechanism. If it turns out that somebody, I see there's an affidavit in there, but if it turns out that somebody is intentionally misstating their sources of income or whatever, does the city have an ability to be able to get those funds back for people who truly need it? And if so, what does that look like? I mean, I realize it's a practical issue, right? And that is, we'd wind up spending a lot more money trying to get those money back on Ms. Anderson's time than we would on the amount of money getting back. But at least from a hypothetical perspective, or I suppose there could be criminal issues.
I will definitely defer to our city attorney. I would add, though, that, and I'm the staff person that's here, but this has really been to get to this point, finance staff as well as youth, family, senior services staff. The new emergency support specialist has really put a lot of effort into trying to get this right and doing research, and it does say an asterisk asking for additional documentation such that before we get it to the city manager for approval, that there's been some due diligence to support the applicant's need, and they do sign off. I will ask our city attorney to say what might happen if it did come to our attention, if someone was misrepresenting their application.
Ms. Anderson?
No, I was reading the affidavit. It's not under the penalties of perjury. It's to the best of my belief. I mean, realistically, trying to get the money back, it would be difficult and costly, and they probably don't have it. What you can do is note and not allow them to participate again. We could add some language that says, if we find out, I'll have to play around with it, but, using falsified information or not completing the knowingly not completing the application, truly, you won't be eligible for further consideration under this program. It doesn't necessarily get back what we want, but it's an enforcement problem. I mean, they're just not going to be able to handle any kind of giving back to us.
Yeah, I think if it's necessary to add a little bit of language emphasizing that falsification could eliminate their ability to be able to access future funds, I think that's an appropriate thing to say. And I just wanted to add just a couple of other quick notes. The first is I really appreciate your dedication to professionalism and your thoroughness in implementing this. This is the structure that I felt nervous wasn't present, and this is a big step in the exact right direction. So thank you for that. And also with regards to the two questions that you posed with my colleagues, and that is, once a year I'm open to once a year in 2 different tranches. And I just think there's too many potential conflicts of interest with households of elected officials, especially the city of College Park. So that's where I am. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you again. Echo everyone was saying, truly appreciate the due diligence, because it's going to make us stand apart from other entities who are trying to do the same thing. But a question I have in regards to giving assistance for rent or something like that, if you see in the application that they're already getting assistance from someone else and they're applying with us, will we wait to see the determination from the first entity first before making the award?
The emergency support specialist, definitely since she started in January, part of her research is, are you receiving any other assistance for this particular need? So to the best of our knowledge, before we make a recommendation, the answer is yes, that we want to see that you aren't, double dipping, like getting rental assistance from us and the county. If you've applied, where's your application in the process? There's definitely a portion that prior to us recommending approval of the grant, that we're researching that to the best of our ability.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I could add a little bit to that as well, when it comes to medical bills and those sorts of things, our staff does a very good job of making sure that, hey, is it something that the insurance company has paid for? How much of that do we need to even cover? I mean, they look at it very specifically and making sure that the application, that we are not looking to pay out anything that we don't need to.
And I would just say also that, again, when you say other people are looking, we are the only municipality who is doing an emergency assistance program, and everyone else is trying to figure out how to do one.
The city of Laurel actually has it, but it is done by the mayor himself.
But yeah.
The city funds it.
So, but kudos to the staff for this.
Absolutely. Thank you. So staff has good directions. I think there are a couple of points. I think the council agrees not to allow the households of the elected officials. Number 2 is to roll it over into chunks in 6 months, I think, and also add some language. So if someone misstates the facts, then that person may not be eligible to receive future funds.
So we'll make those adjustments to the program effective tomorrow. Actually, most of these changes we can do right away. And I appreciate your feedback and
Absolutely.
And comments.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks for
helpful.
your work.
Yes, thank you so much.
Fantastic. All right, we have come to the end of the work session, and this item will go very quickly, I think, which is the agenda items for the July 24th Four Cities meeting in Bowen Heights. One of the items that's, I think, even College Park may not be adding, every other council, city council will be adding, which is the situation with the fire departments, the staffing, reassignment. So, College Park, we can add it. That's not a problem. It will
Actually,
march with others.
I've seen the draft agenda. That's already on there. I think every one of the jurisdictions wants to speak about that. Also, they've said that the SHA District 3 engineer will be at the meeting, and if we have any specific questions, to please provide them in advance.
Good. Any other, Ms. Erdney?
Yes, I have lots of questions for the SHA engineer. My first question, well, one for the SHA engineer, actually, and that would be, can we do something better about the crossing at Campus Drive and the trolley trail? That is, I have heard complaints from municipalities neighboring ours. It's to the point where, they keep trying to kind of limp it along, but they've said that they're not actually going to fix it in the way that it's intended to operate until the purple line is done. And, hey, everybody, we've got a date for completion. We don't. So, I mean, it's aspirational at this point, I feel, to give that as a time limit. So I would like a more permanent fix and for that to work as intended before even December 2027 if things stay on schedule for the Purple Line. So I would love to ask about that. The other question, this wouldn't be for SHA, but another possible question for the group is, unless we hear back beforehand, but it might be good to share, the bridge, the WMATA bridge at the Berwyn Road that goes over the railroad tracks and the metro tracks, that's supposed to be replaced at some point. And there's been, talk that that's going to happen, but I don't know when, and residents are starting to ask about it. And I thought Berwyn Heights might possibly have some information since it connects our two communities, or at the very least, some interest in it.
Yeah, we actually got an update a couple of months ago from WMATA on that. Yeah, it's been delayed heavily.
Okay.
But this could be an agenda item, and we can probably ask that question to WMATA and get some information. And maybe you can ask someone to come to the meeting as well for city's meeting.
We'll put in an inquiry into WMATA, and we'll
sure.
get back to the council on that.
That will be helpful. The questions to SHA, Ms. Whitney was asking, can you send those questions to the person who will be coming to present?
Motion to extend the meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Meeting is extended.
Mayor, we had, just so we could help you all along with this, we had two items that we thought the council has talked about for SHA. One is the U-turns along Baltimore Avenue. The other that we had on the schedule was the timing of the signals along Baltimore Avenue as well.
Good. Thank you.
Is it possible for us to also include route, like the finalization of the phase 3 of Route 1?
Yeah, it's a longer conversation. Yeah, we have been.
I was like, why not?
We are planning to have some smaller meeting first and then going further. We have some. It's ours. Everyone is talking about it. Yeah. Thank you. By the way.
Mr. Mayor, can we also add, my colleague, Councilman Mackey, brought up a good point, in Cherry Hill Road and Route 1, that intersection, the timing of the lights there as well.
It could be the same light synchronization thing.
And if I could just make sure I'm on the same page as you all, on the U-turns issue, were we looking to have something similar to like Ocean City has along the coastal highway there, where they have an actual signal for the U-turns that come on? I thought that's what I remembered for your conversation, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. Okay.
Exploring it is a good idea. Mr. Rigg.
Yeah, and just while we're fleshing out the signalization issue, we've had that conversation a couple of times with SHA, and they always do this with the University of Maryland because they say they get it right, and the University of Maryland goes and does a big event and messes it up. And that may be true, but it shouldn't be on the City of College Park to consistently request that SHA maintain the signalization right.
Yeah, we have been asking many times, and still people aren't happy. All right, any other items? Go ahead, Ms. Mitchell.
I'm gonna bring it up, always continue to bring up tax differential. If all the 4 cities can write a letter in regards to requesting a follow-up and getting something done, I'm gonna keep pushing the pedal about the tax differential, because we all deserve our equal share, and animal shelter.
Good. All right, looks like that's all we have. Good, thank you. Let's go to number 15, which is comments, request for a status of future agenda items. Ms. Mitchell. One just came in. Please go ahead.
So, this is my very first future agenda item, and it's it's timely because I remember the first conversation I had with Ms. Miller, and she asked me, well, why are you running? And I told her that one of the things that I wanted to see more from the city was to build out and institutionalize the bilingualness of the city, specifically for Spanish, at least this time around. We live in a city where there are many residents who live, work, and pay taxes who are unable to communicate effectively in English because their primary language is not English. For me, and I think for most of us, it's important that residents, regardless of their proficiency in English, have access to city programs and services. I proposed a series of different topics for us to discuss. Never done this, so bear with me. Where we would, I'm calling it bilingual bridge building, and we're gonna hopefully discuss institutionalizing Spanish accessibility across the city. And by that I mean having a concerted discussion about about how to formalize municipal interpretation, translation services in an effort to increase civic engagement and broaden communications.
Good, and thank you for sending this out, and it's very very descriptive and very helpful. All the points, and very helpful for. So there is this new submission online, new request submission form. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? This has been added. Any other item? Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you. Just get a status update. I know I've asked about this about maybe a year ago. And this was about a presentation from the county on missing housing. We have asked about this 2 times. And we have not set a date.
Would you please repeat from the county on what?
Missing ADU/middle missing housing. The
It is
county.
It is, that is not currently on the list.
Probably it hasn't been added formally.
Go ahead.
Did planning,
There's affordable housing.
right,
ADUs, but it wasn't,
you.
I was told I didn't have to put in
Right, I
an
was-
agenda request, just for a presentation.
How about,
Okay.
how about?
I can put it in.
Yeah, put it in then.
Okay.
I think we're in agreement on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, that's all we have. All right. Let's go to the audience for comments. We have a great audience in the room, and there are a few. I don't see any virtual hands. Let's come back to the city council, starting with Councilor Rigg.
Pass.
And Mr. Adams actually left, going with Ms. Mackey
Pass.
Pass.
and Ms. Whitney.
Pass.
Dr. Esters,
Pass.
Mr. Hill.
Yeah, I had the honor last week in attending a conference in DC, put together, or hosted rather, by the National League of Cities, and it was focused on redefining the purpose of the land grant college's cooperative extension services from focus of rural use to urban use. It was a very interesting conference, and I think we were able to start the ball rolling on that process.
Fantastic. Thanks for attending. Turn on this.
Pass.
Good. Thank you. Our student liaison, Ms. What?
Pass, thank you.
And Mr. Fahmy.
Pass, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Just to draw your attention to, we do have an information report in regarding some of the code enforcement changes. If you haven't had a chance to read that, it does affect each one of your districts. So it invites you to, when you have leisure time, to take a look at that.
Bedtime reading.
And just a reminder, we do have a closed session following this.
Thank you. Yes. That's all we have. So before I call for motion, let me read out the statement about the closed session. Pursuant to the statutory authority of Maryland Annotated Code, General Provisions, Article 3-305, the mayor and council will meet in a closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice and to consult with the staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. The mayor and council will not return to open session after the closed session ends.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, any abstention? The meeting is adjourned. We are not going to come back. Good night, College Park.